people. And but sometimes the fight is a really important one. And we are in the fight tonight for health care for the American people. One of the first shutdowns I ever was here to see was one, and to be around for, was one where they were trying to defund the Affordable Care Act. They were trying to take health care away from the American people. This is exactly the opposite of that. The situation we're in tonight is one where, as we meet tonight, people are having to fill out their paperwork for their new insurance premiums. And those premiums are offset by part of the Affordable Care Act that creates tax credits for working people to be able to buy insurance to make it a little bit more affordable. Insurance gets more expensive every single year. And we should do something about that, Mr. President, but we're not even having a debate about that today. All we're doing is having a debate about whether or not President Trump and his colleagues across the aisle here in the Senate want to take away those subsidies from the American people. Mr. President, in my state of Colorado, the result of that is going to be that people's health insurance prices are going to double, at least. In some places, they might triple. In some places, they might go up 400%, is what the governor's office is saying to us. And I do feel like somehow at the end of the day here, President Trump is going to try to find a way to make sure that those prices don't go up the way they otherwise would on the American people, and try to find a way to claim credit for it. I don't care about any credit. I just think the American people need to know that their insurance is not going to skyrocket. But you never know from one day to the next. One day he's worried about the prices in Americans. The next day he could care less. And that's the thing we're here to talk about tonight. Everywhere I go in Colorado, Mr. President, families tell me the same thing. The prices are too high. No matter how much money they try to save during the week, they can't keep up with the cost of groceries. They can't feed their families. Many of these Coloradans, 600,000, rely on a program called the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, which is our country's largest and most effective program to feed hungry people and families. Every day, families rely on this program to stretch their food budgets a little further. It allows them to buy things like fruit and vegetables at the farmer's market and the grocery store, pick up milk at the corner store, and for their kids to have a snack when they come home from school. Now the Trump administration is refusing to use the money Congress has appropriated, that Congress passed from here, to fund this vital help for families. And this comes after President Trump and Senate Republicans made the largest cuts in SNAP in the history of the program, all so they could offset their tax cuts for the wealthiest people in America. I've heard from people all over Colorado how mystified they are by that bill, but also the fact that they have no idea how they're going to make ends meet by the end of the week. Older adults in Pueblo County, where nearly 45,000 residents depend on SNAP, now facing health deterioration and malnutrition without the food they need. Grandmothers like one in Arvada who can't feed her 3 young grandchildren. Doctors who know that their patients are not going to be able to remain healthy if they can't feed their families. All over Colorado. All over Colorado, Mr. President, county governments like Chaffee, Pickett, Routt, and Summit are responding to the emergency that President Trump has created by giving grocery store gift cards to families who have lost their SNAP benefits. But that's never going to be enough to offset the damage. Mr. President, before I came to the Senate, I served as the superintendent of the Denver Public Schools. And I'm sorry to say this, but in that job, I've seen firsthand what hunger does to a child, what it means for learning, how it undermines not just their future, but the nation's future. We can't build a strong economy or a strong democracy on empty stomachs, Mr. President. Instead of helping families, instead of complying with what the courts have told them they have a constitutional obligation to do, this administration is making choices that raise costs and harm families. These cuts to food and nutrition are the latest moves that this administration has undertaken to make people's lives harder in this country, not easier. They've made it harder for people this week, not easier, to afford groceries in America. President Trump's tariffs, as everybody in this chamber knows, are driving up grocery prices and costs, and the cost to keep our farms running. And as I said at the very outset, they are refusing to extend health care tax credits, the result of which could double or triple the cost of health care for millions of families all across America. What a record of disgrace. Mr. President, last week, 2 different courts said what President Trump is doing with SNAP is illegal. They told him to make the payments to families. But today he said he would ignore the court orders and refuse to fund the program. Later, the White House press secretary had to walk that back, saying that now they intend to fully comply with that court order. I hope that is true, Mr. President. I hope that is true. President Trump has not just the power, but the legal obligation to fund these benefits and to fund SNAP this month. I urge my colleagues in this chamber to stand up for the families who depend on this critical program and demand that President Trump do the right thing and reduce the costs for working people all over this country. I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
Senator from New Jersey.
Mr. President, I rise today because more than 40 million Americans, including more than 800,000 New Jerseyans, are getting ready to sit down for dinner tonight, wondering if there will be enough food for tomorrow. Roughly 1 in 8 Americans rely on food assistance, and they're left asking if they'll be able to give their kids breakfast in the morning. Those are questions people in my state, in every state in this country, are facing. And it leads me to this question that we should ask ourselves. How did we get here? How did we get to this place where things are so broken that American families are having to ration meals to survive? We are the richest, most powerful country in the entire world. Yet people, so many millions of families, have to ask this question of whether or not they will have enough to eat. Now let's start with President Trump. He's not just absent from any effort to end this shutdown, he's actively weaponizing people's hunger. Last week, 2 federal judges in Massachusetts and Rhode Island ruled that the administration must use contingency funds or transfer authorities to continue SNAP benefits. Both courts found that it's unlawful for President Trump to hold up the money and benefits, and found that emergency funds must be used to keep Americans fed during this shutdown. Now, yesterday, his administration told federal judge that they would use a contingency fund to pay half of SNAP benefits. But today, Trump made it clear he would defy the court order and won't pay anything unless Democrats stop our attempt to lower health care costs. And then the White House came out hours later to try to do some cleaning up, saying that they would comply. I don't know what to believe. No one in America knows what to believe. How can Americans that are hungry plan their next meal with this level of uncertainty coming from the White House? That's not leadership. Now, we know this president has the authority to make this pain stop. Now, during his first term, his own administration issued guidance saying these contingency funds are available if SNAP funds lapse due to a government shutdown. Now, during this second term, the pre-shutdown documents confirming the USDA would be able to continue funding SNAP have vanished. They're just gone, removed from the website. So, we know the authorities exist. We know the money exists. What we don't know is the willingness of Donald Trump to put American families ahead of himself. We have billions to send to Argentina, hundreds of millions for a new gold-plated ballroom, but money to keep food on the table of millions of families. Donald Trump doesn't think that's a priority. Well, of course, he's wrong. And that is one way that we arrive at this moment. The second reason why families are having to question where their next meal is coming from is found across the Capitol, where Speaker Johnson, just on the other side of this hallway, hasn't brought the House into session in more than 45 days. What would happen to the American people? What would happen to your jobs if you didn't show up for 45 days? Now, this is not just an abdication of responsibility, it is a dereliction of duty, and people will suffer because of it. There is real harm. It is not theoretical. So for these 42 million Americans, they're not asking for the moon. They're just asking for a little help to be able to feed their kids, to be able to feed their families in a time of need, to be able to just be able to provide and live a life of dignity and decency. Now, this is something that our government should do. What is the value of government if we cannot help people, our fellow citizens, in their time of need? It is at the core of what we do. And at a time like this, I find myself thinking back to Mr. Rogers' quote, always look for the helpers. We all know that line. And as I look around, I ask, well, where are the helpers? I look at the White House. I see corruption. I see cruelty. I look at the House of Representatives that has been on for nearly a 7-week vacation, getting paid while many government employees are showing up to work and not getting paid, worried about whether or not they're going to be able to pay the bills. While President Trump and House Republicans fail them, I see in my own home state of New Jersey people stepping up to be the helpers. I see people back home who have taken upon themselves to do what the White House and the congressional Republicans have prevented us from doing. People like Mary from Medford, who as a teacher is personally doing check-ins with her students to make sure their families have resources as New Jersey heads into winter, while also organizing a Thanksgiving drive for her with her friends and family to collect winter items and food to donate to Camden. Or Pamela from Rocky Hill, who has taken it upon herself to purchase grocery store gift cards and sending them to AmeriCorps members across New Jersey who would otherwise rely on SNAP for monthly food costs. Or Leslie from Stockton, who is donating to local food banks in her community, who says, quote, I feel very fortunate that I can donate food. No one in this country should lack a roof over their head, heat in their home, medical care, or nutritious food. I wish those words were coming out of the President of the United States. I wish those values were shared by the leaders in the House of Representatives that are not even showing up. And these are just snapshots of hundreds of stories we have received from New Jerseyans who have stepped up in their own communities by increasing donations to food banks, giving away their free turkeys from the grocery stores, volunteering more at local pantries across the state. The list goes on and on. I want to close here by highlighting the last part of Mr. Rogers' famous quote. We all know, look for the helpers. What is not as commonly thought of is the sentences that follow. He says, look for the helpers, because if you look for the helpers, you'll know that there's hope. Mr. President, as my office continues to receive stories from all over my state, I'm just so proud to represent these 9 million Americans who left, right, or center, old and young, are currently stepping up. They are the helpers who give me hope. I urge my colleagues to listen to those back home in their states, those here on the floor telling stories from back home. We cannot allow Americans to go hungry. We cannot allow these games to go on with people's lives. We must become the helpers for those we represent. That is the true meaning of the job that we do here. While we carry the title of senators, ultimately what the people ask of us are to be the helpers that they can look to be able to help them in their time of need. And right now, that means fully funding SNAP so people in this country don't go hungry. And with that, I'll yield back.
Mr. President,
Senator from Wisconsin.
I rise today to give voice to the more than 700,000 Wisconsinites who use SNAP to put food on the table. We call it food share in our state. And it's nothing short of a lifeline for over 40 million Americans. But unfortunately, right now, Donald Trump is pulling the rug out from under American families. Let me be crystal clear. No one wins in a shutdown. And that's why I've been practically begging Republican leadership to sit down with Democrats to reopen the government, make sure families are fed, and to lower health care costs. And while I stand ready and willing to work with my colleagues on a compromise, House Republicans have been on vacation for 45 days. Donald Trump has been jet-setting around the world, and when he is back in the country, he has been focused on overseeing the construction of his big, beautiful ballroom. But now, he has finally started to turn his attention to the shutdown. Unfortunately for the American people, he is not coming to the table to negotiate, to reopen the government and bring down health care costs. Instead, he is holding hungry Americans hostage and using families as political pawns. Instead of sitting down with Democrats to find a compromise to get out of this shutdown and lower costs for working families, Donald Trump illegally cut off food for nearly 42 million Americans. President Trump made a choice not to feed hungry families. That's right, a choice. And we learned that choice was illegal. Two different judges concluded that Donald Trump was required to use contingency funds to make sure SNAP continues to flow to hungry families. But the president was then given another choice. The judges told him that he could shift resources around to make families whole and ensure that our kids are fed. But again, the president said no and chose to withhold federal funding needed to keep food on the table for Wisconsinites. Now, to put a finer point on this, the president has the money for all sorts of things. Private planes for his staff, $20 billion to bail out Argentina, and of course, his glamorous ballroom. But he is choosing not to fund SNAP and keep 700,000 Wisconsinites fed. This is really uncharted territory. Until now, ensuring that funding for SNAP continues has been standard operating procedure in every previous shutdown. Until Donald Trump, every president has put people above politics to keep food on the table. By sitting on his hands and refusing to lift a finger for hungry families until a court forced him to step up, Trump has caused total and utter chaos. The resulting delays and confusions have been nothing short of devastating. States are trying to figure out how to administer partial payments. Food pantries are seeing lines outside their doors. Families are showing up to grocery stores unsure if they are going to be able to afford to buy food. Children are going to school with empty stomachs. Then, just today, President Trump posted on social media and further muddied the waters, leading us to question if he plans to abide by the court order to release SNAP benefits at all. The president needs to follow court orders and provide food assistance now, and he should fund it in full. For 700,000 Wisconsinites, Donald Trump refusing to fund SNAP adds insult to injury when it comes to nutrition assistance. Remember, the president's marquee accomplishment this year was passing a massive tax bill that disproportionately benefits the wealthiest Americans and big corporations. And how are we paying for that tax break for billionaires? Donald Trump's novel solution was, in part, the largest cut to SNAP in history. Now, even more families are being left in the lurch because of President Trump, unsure if there will be food on the table this week. We need to reopen the federal government and address rising costs for American families. And we know the fastest way is Donald Trump coming to the table. I'm here waiting. But in the meantime, 42 million American families should not go hungry because Donald Trump wants to use them as leverage. President Trump, you have the power, you have the legal authority to keep these benefits flowing and feed hungry kids. Use it. I yield.
Senator from Washington.
Mr. President, I rise to join my colleagues here on the floor tonight to talk about the importance of SNAP benefits. And I think you can see that what we don't need is more chaos. And we certainly don't need less help. What we need is for our colleagues on the other side of the aisle and the White House to help us with SNAP. Now, my newspapers have been very clear. The Spokesman Review, SNAP benefits remain in limbo. The Seattle Times, state SNAP recipients brace for lower benefits after partial funding. The President of the United States, as my colleagues have said, have been ordered by the courts to pay for SNAP benefits, but instead of doing that, wants to continue to make life harder on not just Washingtonians, but many people across the country. Nearly 1 million Washingtonians receive SNAP benefits. We're talking about benefits that are helping them make ends meet. And as we've seen from food banks since the COVID days till now, not everybody can find food without paying exorbitant costs. So the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program is created to try to help those Washingtonians and other people feed their families and feed their children. More than 38% of SNAP participants are families with members who are older adults or disabled. Nearly 10% of Washington households are food insecure, meaning they don't have the necessary access to have adequate food because they simply can't afford it. So we're here tonight to talk about how we want to save SNAP. SNAP benefits, as we know, help with the average household receiving benefits or about $5.92 a day. Yes, that means that the fourth most expensive state to buy groceries in the U.S., and that the average cost of weekly groceries in the state of Washington is $287, over $1,000 per month. So we know that the SNAP benefit program helps us. So we know this administration likes to go from crisis to crisis, But grocery prices have been rising because of the Trump tariffs. And now, because the fact that our Republican colleagues will not work with us to open the government, those families who rely on SNAP are having a big challenge. We know that what we need to do is put SNAP dollars back into our economy. Every dollar spent on SNAP generates $1.54 of economic activity. In the 4 years leading up to the COVID pandemic, SNAP lifted 154,000 Washingtonians from poverty, including 77,000 children. My office released data yesterday showing where halting SNAP would cause the most damage. People in Yakima County, where more than 57,000 people, 21% of the county's residents, receive SNAP benefits. In King County, that's where Seattle is, nearly 200,000 people will lose benefits. So let's be clear, the administration could fully fund SNAP benefits, do as the courts have asked, but for some reason, it's better to deny these people the benefits they deserve. I don't understand. We know what the courts have said. One in Massachusetts, one in Rhode Island. It said the administration should use the available emergency funding to fulfill SNAP benefits to 42 million Americans. That's what the courts have said. So the economic hardship that is being put on these American families at the hands of this administration is unconscionable. Why would the president freeze a program that not only stimulates the economy, helps fight hunger, feeds families, counteracts the tariff costs, and do what the courts is telling them to do? I don't understand why the American people, particularly families at lower income, are some sort of bargaining chit here in the United States Senate. I thought we were here to solve problems. I thought we were here to help the American people. Yakima County, as I mentioned, one of the most hard-hit SNAP counties, is really a failure to extend the premium tax credits that helped keep insurance affordable. Data from the exchange also showed that the people in this particular county expect a 133% increase in health insurance premiums for those county residents. So here we are, the most hard-hit SNAP county in our state, and also now facing a whopping $1,049 per month increase in their premiums. How do my colleagues expect people in Washington to survive with out-of-control health insurance costs, out-of-control food insurance costs, and especially as inflation rose to 3% in September? So instead of coming to the table on meaningful negotiations, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are still refusing to address the high costs of food and the high costs of health care. We're here tonight to say it's easy to save SNAP. The president could just do it. But let's work together to lower these extraordinary costs of health care on American families, to help a food program that has helped our farm communities and certainly helped families. Let's do the right thing and help save the SNAP program. I thank my colleagues and I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
Senator from Delaware.
Mr. President, I am grateful to my colleagues who've spoken this evening about the critical answer we should be giving to the question, who is my neighbor? I know of no faith that teaches that we should take food away from hungry children, from the seniors and the disabled and the veterans in our communities, so that we can hurt our political opponents. But sadly, that's what our president is doing. My foundational faith rests in the Gospels. One of the best known parables told by Jesus is the parable of the Good Samaritan. And lots of folks know the parable of the Good Samaritan, but maybe don't know exactly what it teaches, so let me just take a moment. Jesus is asked, what are the most important parts of the law? And he says, recite what the law teaches. He's asked, what do I have to do to inherit eternal life? And he says, what does the law teach? Love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind is the answer, and love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus says, you read correctly. Then, being a lawyer, I always love that part, seeking to justify himself, the questioner asks the next question, but who is my neighbor? And Jesus tells one of the most radical, challenging, and disruptive of his parables. You have to think about it in the context in which it was given. Some of the most respected people in the society he was from are exemplars, characters in this parable. A man is going down a road and is set upon by robbers and is beaten and injured and is lying in the side of the road. And a priest, one of the most respected religious leaders in ancient Israel, a priest is walking down the road and turns and passes on the other side. And then a Levite, part of a tribe of Israel that was known for their holiness and for their descent from the priestly class. He also walks by on the other side. And it is a Samaritan, a member of a community, a tribe of faith that was considered abhorrent to the ancient Israelites, who stops, who puts the wounded man on his donkey, who cares for him, who takes him to an inn, who treats his wounds and leaves money and says to the innkeeper, I will come back and pay you whatever is required for his care. And then Jesus says, who was acting like a neighbor? To which the lawyer properly says, the one who had mercy on him, on the victim. Righteousness requires us to view and treat as neighbor those who are on the margins of life. It was Senator Hubert Humphrey, I believe, who said the true test of a nation is how it treats those at the dawn of life, its children, those in the shadows of life, the disabled and the infirm, and those in the twilight of life, the seniors. And yet President Trump today, in defiance of 2 federal court orders, has been saying that he will refuse to distribute SNAP benefits promptly and fully. I believe last night in a Truth Social post, he said SNAP benefits, and I'm skipping the attacks on his predecessor, will be given only when the radical left Democrats open up our government and not before. The larger point is that SNAP, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which feeds millions of hungry Americans, is being used as a weapon, as a tool in this moment to try and leverage the hunger of millions, to put pressure on us as a Senate to reopen. It's shocking that President Trump would say out loud his intention to defy court orders and to use whether or not to feed hungry children as leverage. In my home state of Delaware, where I've heard from the head of our food bank, from the heads of lots of local organizations that care for and support seniors and children and veterans, 11% of our state is on SNAP, 48,000 children, 4,700 veterans. Nationwide, 20% of all of our children are on SNAP. It is critical to the health and safety and development of children so that they can hear the teaching in the classroom over the grumbling of their bellies. The Food Bank of Delaware shared with me the story of a young mother whose doctor had said she had to stop working because her pregnancy was so far along, and as a result had to leave her work at a chicken processing plant, and today desperately needs SNAP, these benefits, to feed her 4 children. What answer does President Trump and my colleagues give to the question, who is my neighbor? On whom will they show mercy? The answer apparently is not America's children, not veterans, not working parents, not seniors and people with disabilities. In my home state, I'm grateful for a governor and leaders in our General Assembly who have stepped in to fill the breach and to provide these SNAP benefits temporarily, but they cannot do so for long. I believe in the richest country on earth. It is a shame. It is a horror for our children, our seniors, our disabled citizens, our veterans who rely on this program to go hungry just so we can continue fighting in this chamber. It is long past time for my colleagues and our president to answer the question, who is my neighbor, in a way that includes all Americans and does not cut them off from this vital and needed support. Thank you, Mr. President. With that, I yield the floor.
Senator from Oregon.
Mr. President, President Donald Trump has a new MAHA strategy, but it's no longer Make America Healthy Again. It is now the Make America Hungry agenda. The president is weaponizing food against America's most vulnerable families. In my state of Oregon, SNAP feeds over 750,000 people, including well over 200,000 children. Now, Oregon is roughly, from its northern border to its southern border, roughly 300 miles. So invite yourselves to do a little calculation. Imagine those 700,000 people lined up along I-5, stretching 300 miles from the northern border with Washington to the southern border with California. And do you think you'll see a person every mile or so? No. You would see a person every 2 feet over that 300-mile trip. You know, it's about a 6-hour drive from the northern border to the southern border. 6 hours driving past a continuous line of people. That, my colleagues, is the vision that Trump has for more than 700,000 hungry people, almost a third, every third person in line, approximately a child. What kind of vision is that for America? When children go hungry, it affects their physical development. It certainly affects the wiring of their brain, their mental development. And it certainly is devastating to their education. My colleague just noted that children can't learn when they hear the grumbling in the stomach. He's absolutely right. Children cannot learn when they're hungry. So it's a threefold attack on America's children. Congress, together, Democrats and Republicans, said this should never happen. So we created a contingency fund. That contingency fund has a little north of $4.5 billion in it. And we created the ability to use and interchange to transfer funds from a tariff fund that has about $16 billion in it. Funds raised during the Biden administration from tariffs available now to be transferred to ensure children don't go hungry. We together, Democrats and Republicans, created this twofold strategy. We together, the Senate and the House, created this strategy to ensure children won't go hungry. But what is happening now? Well, the Department of Agriculture administers this program, the SNAP program. Back in September, the Department of Agriculture posted a notice saying, don't worry, we will make sure we use the contingency funds to feed the children. And then, in October, they took that down because the president said, we don't want to use the funds that Congress set up in order to feed children. We want those children and their hunger to be a bargaining chip. We want to make children hungry. We want to diminish their physical and mental health. We want to undermine their education as a bargaining chip. Oh my goodness. What has this country come to that my Republican colleagues and the President of the United States are saying use hungry children as a bargaining chip in our nation? Now, the administration well understood the contingency fund, and they well understood the transfer authority. In fact, they used the transfer authority twice to fund WIC just recently. You know, I saw a speech by the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, last week, and he said, "We're not going to fund SNAP because it would reduce pressure on Democrats." There you go. You hear it again. Use hungry children as a bargaining chip here in the United States of America. Trump posted on Truth Social, SNAP benefits will only be given once the government reopens and not before. That statement on Truth Social came after last Friday's 2 court decisions, both of which said, Mr. President, you have a legal obligation to fund SNAP. We have a contingency fund. You have the money. You have the responsibility, and SNAP must be funded immediately. Well, clearly that's not happening, because here we are on Tuesday, and SNAP has not been funded. Well, here we are on November 3rd, and SNAP has not been funded. The Speaker of the House, the President of the United States, using hungry children, seniors, people with disabilities, veterans, vulnerable families as bargaining chips. We're here tonight to say, hell no. That's not the America we live in, where we help each other out. This is not the America we live in, where we fail to use the program Democrats and Republicans set up together in a bipartisan fashion to make sure children and vulnerable families don't go hungry. Following that decision last Friday by 2 district courts saying, President, you have the responsibility to fund these programs, you have the funds to fund these programs, so do it. The administration has come back and said, well, we might consider using the contingency fund, but we're not going to use the interchange program. And that means at best we can only fund half the benefits because, well, SNAP takes about $8 to $9 billion per month. And we're talking only about $4.5 billion plus few change that is in the contingency fund. So you have to use the interchange for the other half of the benefits. Well, here is a big problem because families getting this minimal support of $6 a day per person would get $3 a day. I am pretty confident no member of Congress has ever gone a month funding their food on $3 a day. If any of my colleagues would like to volunteer to demonstrate that they can do that, it would be an interesting story for a reporter to follow you through the month. No cheating for the food you already have stored in the garage or stored in your cupboards. I'm sure your cupboards are already full. $3 a day. Give it a shot. Tell us about that. Children are not going to get the food they need. I'm a bit older. When you get older, you don't eat as much today. But I remember how much I ate when I was a teenager. I ate probably 2.5 times, 3 times what I eat now. The second problem is really a whopper. The second problem is that the administration has said because we only want to fund partial benefits, all the computers have to be reprogrammed. We got to change all the federal systems for distributing this fund. And you know what? All the states have to change what they do. So in a court filing yesterday, the administration said it will take weeks or months for most states or for many states to be able to deliver the benefits. We don't know if that was 50 out of 50 states. We don't know if that was 40 out of 50 states, but if most states have to reprogram their computers to do this calculation, to get this right, the administration is saying, we're going to do the contingency fund, but people may not get it for weeks or months, with an S on the months. Months? The court said, get it done by yesterday, Monday. This is Tuesday, and the administration said it's going to take us weeks or months to get that funding done. This is just a way of sneering at the court and saying, you may have ordered us, but we'll find a way to slow things down. Again, using the most vulnerable Americans as a bargaining chip. That is fabulously disturbing. Here's the court decision right here. Take a look at it. I invite all my colleagues to read it on both sides of the aisle. It says right in it, families will not be able to get the funding in many states for weeks or months. This document was penned by Patrick Penn, Deputy Undersecretary for Food and Nutrition and Consumer Services at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, formal filing of the Trump administration by the Deputy Undersecretary responsible. I quote it just to make this point again. USDA's understanding is that system changes states must implement to provide the reduced benefit amounts will take anywhere from a few weeks to several months. So let's take several months. So benefits get to somebody in Oregon, my 700,000 plus Oregonians who use SNAP for November, but they don't get it until January. Really? Colleagues, that's acceptable to you? Come to the floor and tell me why that's acceptable in your state. That's not acceptable to me. I don't think it's acceptable to any of you. So where are you? Why aren't you down here right now saying the same thing? This should be bipartisan. It isn't just children in blue states that are affected. It's not just blue children in red states affected. It's everybody. Every state has a population that will go hungry if the SNAP benefits don't get to them. So let's fix this. Together, we built the infrastructure so this would never happen. Together, let's tell the administration that they have to use this infrastructure. You know, last night I came down here with a resolution, and the resolution was very simple. It says, we together built the infrastructure through the contingency fund and through the interchange transfer ability to make sure children never go hungry. Together, let's tell the president, use these powers, fund the full benefits. And a Republican colleague came down and objected. I asked him to address the substance of the resolution, what was wrong with it. And instead, he chose to do a tirade about Democrats shutting down the government. My goodness, really? It's like, let's talk about how to deliver a healthy meal to children, and we get a politicization of this issue. It's like moldy bread. My Republican colleagues know they voted time and time again against reopening the government in a fashion that will solve the health care problem that was created in the big, ugly betrayal of Bill. And Democrats voted against the Republican version of reopening the government. So the whole world knows both sides voted against a version of reopening the government, but then you have dialogue. People talk to each other. But President Trump said, I don't want the House or Senate leadership to talk to Democrats. So the Senate Republican leadership has been unwilling to sit down and negotiate. That's not the way it's supposed to work. We're not supposed to be ordered around by a president. The entire democracy is based on this chamber laying out the vision for the country, working together to make sure the issues in every corner of our nation are addressed. That's why there's 100 senators here representing every part of the country. That's why there's 430 plus members of the House representing every corner of the country. Not a dictator. Not an authoritarian saying my way or the highway. You lose your democracy and you end up with an authoritarian government when legislative leaders say, we're sorry, we'll set our own opinions behind, we'll set aside our own desire to help our own people to do what the president says. That's an authoritarian government. Every time you hear the president say, I'm shutting down a program because it doesn't align with the priorities of my administration, every single senator should come down here and say, we are a republic where Article 1 is about the power of the people through their electeds shaping the vision for this country, not through a single person in the Oval Office. That's an authoritarian government. You want an authoritarian government? There are a list of states I'd be happy to provide you for information for how you can go vacation in those authoritarian governments, and you can decide whether you like or not. But I'm here. We are here to defend democracy, to defend the vision of actually doing right by the people. Government by and for the powerful is not the vision of our nation. And yet, here we are tonight. The president saying starve the kids and the vulnerable families as a bargaining chip while he sends $20 billion to Argentina. The president saying starve the children and the vulnerable while he does $1 trillion in tax breaks for America's richest families, a bill that was passed on a partisan line by my Republican colleagues. Here we are tonight, a president, a Republican Party saying starve the children and the vulnerable families because I want to build a ballroom, a golden ballroom worthy of Louis XIV. This new strategy from the president, being backed up by my colleagues across the aisle, the Make America Hungry agenda, make the vulnerable into bargaining chips, is not a vision that happens when you have government by and for the people. It is a vision that occurs when you have government by and for the powerful. But that's not the vision our nation was founded on. We were founded on a government that serves the people. So let's come together and remember our mission. Remember our oath of office to that Constitution that lays out the checks and balances to ensure that we serve the people, not the oligarchs, not the most powerful, not the billionaires. Let's address this issue immediately and tell the president we're 100 senators strong. Fund the SNAP program. You have the authority, you have the money, you have the responsibility, and none of us should stand for those children being bargaining chips. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Senator from Connecticut.
Thanks, Mr. President. The Trump administration is making history today, but not in a good way. In fact, in a reprehensible and irresponsible way. In one sentence, for the first time in history in the United States of America, SNAP benefits have been stopped. There are disasters and catastrophes that occur in the United States, just as in any other part of the world, whether it's Katrina or Storm Sandy or the Hurricane Melissa that we just had in Jamaica abroad. There are natural disasters that are beyond our control. Rarely does humanity choose inhumanity. That's a choice that, fortunately, mankind tries to spare. But today, Donald Trump is stopping SNAP benefits for millions of Americans across the country. In fact, 1/8 of all Americans depend on SNAP benefits. 1 of every 10 people in Connecticut receives SNAP benefits. In New Mexico, the proportion is even higher, about 1 out of 5. This stopping of SNAP benefits is a natural, or I should say national disaster. that is not a natural disaster. It is man-made, purposeful, and intentional. And its purpose is really just to inflict pain. It is the result of an effort by the Trump administration to inflict maximum pain, to magnify political pressure. Kids are pawns in this political game for Donald Trump. Millions of Americans depend on this program, including 360,000 people in Connecticut. Republicans are saying it is the inevitable consequence of a government shutdown. False. There is money, the Emergency Contingency Fund, and revenues from other sources like tariffs that are more than adequate to fund the $8 to $9 billion for this program in November. There is an emergency contingency fund that exists for this purpose, an emergency, at least $5 billion, perhaps as much as $6 billion, and more than adequate resources from other accounts that can be used. In fact, the Department of Agriculture has used those other accounts in situations like this one, in shutdowns where administrations have said, we're going to feed the hungry. We're not letting Americans starve. I've been to the food pantries and the shelters and the soup kitchens around Connecticut, and what I've heard and I've seen is lines of people who are going to be going hungry when the private contributions of food are exhausted, and soon they will be. That's what I'm hearing from the folks who run Connecticut Food Share, the St. Vincent de Paul Pantry in Middletown, all across Connecticut, in towns as well as cities. We face a food insecurity crisis. The term food insecurity is a brilliant euphemism for hunger. And the gnawing effect of hunger, we all know it, prevents kids from learning or playing sports. It is debilitating, not just in the short run, it affects people in the long run, nutritionally. So this idea of make America healthy again is really the height of hypocrisy for an administration that is making Americans hungry again. And Donald Trump just days ago said, and I'm quoting almost exactly, said he would be honored to obey a court order that provided direction. Well, there is direction. 2 courts have ordered it, and now he's defying those courts. He's reversed himself in just a matter of days, and now he's saying that he refuses to provide the funding for SNAP benefits. These court orders are not suggestions or invitations. They are mandatory directives. 2 courts, Rhode Island and Massachusetts, in lawsuits brought by state attorneys general in Massachusetts and by cities, towns, and private organizations in Rhode Island. We've been clear again and again and again as Democrats. Americans should never have to choose between food and health, between food and rent, between food and mortgage payments, between food and electricity. There should be no need for families to choose because there should be no choice by our public officials to make them choose. But that's what we're seeing right now. And if we can be sure of one thing here, kids will go to bed hungry. Because I've talked to their moms and dads. Kids will go to bed hungry, or they will be unable to go to a doctor because Republicans say, well, reopen the government, and then we'll talk about health care insurance coverage. We should be talking about it right now because families are making decisions about whether they can afford health insurance right now on the open markets that are ongoing right now. And they can't afford to get sick on Donald Trump's timetable. Nobody can. As of Saturday, the regularly appropriated funding for SNAP ended, which left families across the country wondering how they're going to put food on the table. And that was when the courts stepped in to this crisis. And state the obvious, there's no reason for anyone to go hungry, not just because the courts have ordered that SNAP benefits be provided, but because there is a moral imperative in America. Starvation occurred systematically and ruthlessly as a result of Stalin saying about Ukraine that he was going to take their harvest, kill their livestock, uproot their gardens in backyard. He starved millions of people. It was the result of a totalitarian edict. Now, I'm not comparing Donald Trump to Stalin, but starvation is not some abstract concept. It is real. And there is a legal obligation in America, as well as a moral obligation, to provide this program. We do not live in Stalin's Soviet Union. But we do live in a country that is threatened with the specter of totalitarianism, because these kinds of decisions involve defying courts. Donald Trump is defying courts. He is defying laws passed by the Congress, signed by the president, that provide a legal obligation to use that available money. This march toward totalitarianism is not theoretical or abstract. And again, I am not drawing any comparison, none, with Stalinist Soviet Union. But hunger should not be something that we regard as a realistic threat in America. It may exist in other parts of the world. We try to provide food to those parts of the world where kids are in danger of going hungry. And we ought to do at least the same here for the children of this country. Democrats have been clear that we will come to the table, negotiate, reach a solution. It could be done this afternoon. If Speaker Johnson would bring the House back to town from its paid vacation, if Donald Trump would show leadership and seek a solution, and Speaker Thune be part of that constructive process. It is not an inevitable consequence that SNAP be shut down. It is a choice. It is a failure. It is a purposeful and conscious failure. And the United States Department of Agriculture has a moral and a legal obligation to use the vast produce and output of our agricultural system so that we in America can sleep at night with a clear conscience, knowing our country puts feeding hungry children above politics and refuses to use them as pawns. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Senator from Wyoming.
Consent that the Senate be in a period of morning business with senators permitted to speak therein for up to 10 minutes each.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I have two requests for committees to meet during today's session of the Senate. They have the approval of the majority and minority leaders.
Duly noted.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of calendar number 192 S1872.
The clerk will report.
Calendar number 192 S1872, a bill to direct the Secretary of Commerce to conduct a study on the feasibility of manufacturing in the United States products for critical infrastructure sectors and for other purposes.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the committee-reported substitute amendment be considered and agreed to. The bill as amended be considered read a third time and passed, and that the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of calendar number 171 S503.
The clerk will report.
Calendar number 171 S503, a bill to direct the Federal Communications Commission to evaluate and consider the impact of the telecommunications network equipment supply chain on the deployment of universal service and for other purposes.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the bill be considered read a third time and passed, and that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent that the Committee on Foreign Relations be discharged from further consideration, and the Senate now proceed to S-Res 399.
Clerk will report.
Senate Resolution 399, congratulating the people of North Macedonia on the 34th anniversary of their independence, and so forth.
Without exception, the committee is discharged. And the Senate will proceed to the measure.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, and that the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Foreign Relations Committee be discharged from further consideration, and the Senate now proceed to S-Res 459.
Clerk will report.
Senate Resolution 459, honoring the strategic importance of the C5+1 diplomatic platform, and so forth.
Without objection, the committee is discharged.
I ask
And the
unanimous
Senate will
consent.
proceed to the measure.
Excuse me. I ask unanimous consent that the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, and that the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the consideration of S-Res 482, which is at the desk.
The clerk will report.
Senate Resolution 482, recognizing the week of November 3rd through November 7th, 2025 as National Veterans Small Business Week.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask unanimous consent the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, and that motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes its business today, it stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Wednesday, November 5th, that following the prayer and pledge, the Journal of Proceedings be approved to date, the morning hour be deemed expired, the time for the two leaders be reserved for their use later in the day, and the Senate be in a period of morning business with senators permitted to speak therein for up to 10 minutes each. And notwithstanding Rule 22, at 11:30 a.m., the Senate execute the order of October 30th in relation to confirmation of the tongue nomination, and following disposition of the tongue nomination, the Senate vote on cloture On executive calendar number 421, Caleb Orr. And if cloture is invoked, the Senate vote on confirmation at 2:15 p.m. Finally, if any nominations are confirmed during Wednesday's session of the Senate, the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table, and the President be immediately notified of the Senate's action.
Without objection.
Mr. President, if there is no further business to come before the Senate, I ask that it stand adjourned under the previous order.
The Senate stands adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Democrat Mikey Sherrill holding a roughly 1 percentage point lead at just over 50%, and her Republican rival Jack Ciattarelli just behind at over 49%. Atlas Intel reporting a sharp 0.1% margin of error. In our Pix 11 poll with The Hill and Emerson College also seeing signs of a razor-thin race, finding Sherrill slightly ahead at 49% to Ciattarelli's near 48%. That poll also indicating a gender break in likely voters, with men backing Ciattarelli at a higher rate and more women supporting Sherrill. The Emerson poll also finding undecided voters surveyed leaning Sherrill. Other polls seeing Sherrill higher. Quinnipiac University showing her with a 10 percentage point lead, and former President Barack Obama joining Sherrill over the weekend at a Newark campaign rally.
Because you've got a candidate for governor who's a proven fighter, who's got a track record of getting stuff done, somebody who sees you and knows your struggles and will work for you every single day.
I really believe this, particularly in New Jersey. The candidate has to win the race. And that's why I get up and down the state every day and engage with people every day, shake hands every single day, and listen. And I think we've done that a hell of a lot better than my opponent.
That's Ciattarelli reacting to the Sherrill Obama rally. The Republican nominee also campaigning over the weekend, stopping in several New Jersey counties. Ciattarelli is set to return to the road today for a final swing of campaign stops before Election Day. And back live, this final campaign countdown as Rasmussen finds that nearly 1 million New Jersey voters have already cast their ballots, with a large number of them reportedly Democrats. But there are some who are speculating that tomorrow that could change with a possible high Republican day of election day race.
covering the New York City mayoral race, and Rich Edson reporting on the ground in Virginia on the governor's race there. But we begin tonight with Brian Yennis, who has the latest on the New Jersey gubernatorial race. Brian?
Joey, good evening. Today is the last day of in-person early voting in New Jersey. Polls close at 6 p.m. And so far, according to the data out there, registered Democrats have a slight edge over registered Republicans in the number of in-person early votes cast. But twice as many registered Democrats have voted by mail as Republicans. In fact, more than 200,000 more. This means Republican Jack Ciattarelli is likely going to need huge turnout on Election Day to beat Democrat Mikey Sherrill. Ciattarelli today made 3 campaign stops in New Jersey's MAGA country, Monmouth and Ocean counties. He's making the case this election is about moving on from 8 years of Democratic Governor Phil Murphy and about choosing a real Jersey guy.
They brought John Corzine here from Illinois. Didn't work out so well. They brought Phil Murphy here from Massachusetts. Didn't work out so well. My opponent's not from New Jersey either. So Middletown, I got a really simple idea. You ready? How about we elect the Jersey guy? We cannot afford another 4 years of Phil Murphy's failed policies. Make no mistake, if my opponent's elected, it's more of the same, only worse.
Sherrill today campaigned alongside Arizona Senator Ruben Gallego to try to court Latino voters. Sherrill's brought in about a dozen Democratic Party stars to campaign with her, including former President Obama yesterday in Newark.
My fight doesn't and can't end at the border of New Jersey. We've got to take on all those hits coming from Trump and Washington, D.C.
This time, his strategy is to suck up to the Republicans in Washington. So Donald Trump called Mikey's opponent 100% MAGA. Not a great endorsement.
Ciattarelli has run for governor 3 times. It's his 3rd time, but he says the energy and momentum is on his side to flip New Jersey red. We'll find out in 2 days. Joey?
Thanks, Brian. Now to senior national correspondent Rich Edson, who's live tonight down in Virginia. Rich?
Good evening, Joey. It is farm country campaigning for Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl-Sears. Just wrapped an event here. She's campaigning with Governor Glenn Youngkin around the Richmond area. The two are making the case for the Republican ticket, trying to get a repeat of 2021 when Republicans captured the governor's mansion. They are painting the Democratic candidate for governor, Abigail Spanberger, as dangerously liberal, a politician who is extreme on energy and cultural issues. Now, Republicans are also pointed to Democratic candidate for Attorney General Jay Jones, whose violent 2022 text messages have upended this race. Spanberger and other Virginia Democrats have condemned the texts, but refused to call on Jones to drop out of the race. Polling has shown Spanberger with a lead, though with Jones now in a tight race with incumbent Attorney General Jason Miyares.
I have Democrats coming up to me saying I may be a Democrat, I may be voting for Democrats otherwhere on the ballot, but I'm voting for you.
DOJ cuts, you have the federal shutdown as well. A lot of those politics play into how people vote in Virginia. I want to put up a stat here that we're getting from some of the exit polls. The economy, the #1 issue at 49%. Followed here, what else do we have here? 46%. This is a different graphic than we were talking about, but we should jump to the next one about the economy in the second question, but it's okay. Anyways, the economy was the reason people were voting. What can we draw from that with President Trump?
Well, I mean, what I'm looking and what I'm saying is that this is a 5-alarm fire for the president. Not only are people in Virginia, but in New Jersey as well, saying that the economy is not only tanking and bad, but it's their driver for turnout. I mean, NBC's poll just recently showed that the president is down on every category, every issue from corruption to cost of living to tariffs to electricity cost. He's down across the board as it relates to the economy. Hogan and I were just arguing about this back and forth. We usually Republicans usually beat Democrats on the issue of the economy. Now NBC's poll is showing that they're down 20 points. This is a problem for the president. And I will say, I won, I was on Obama's campaign in 2008, and we won Virginia for the first time then. The interesting thing about Virginia is 3 states in 1. So we now focus on Northern Virginia, which we expect Democrats to have very high turnout, which he did. But what we're seeing now, I'm hearing from the National Governors Association as well as from the campaign, that turnout is low in the Republican counties. That part of Virginia, the smaller part, Roanoke, those counties, those turnout there is low. And that really, to me, signals a much larger problem for the president. Not only do you have people saying that the economy is bad, they're voting on the economy, but now he can't even keep his coalition together, and Republican voters are not turning out.
Maybe, but maybe he couldn't motivate his base because he wasn't backing the top of the ticket in that case. Let's talk about New Jersey, though, because some of the points that Ashley just brought up, it's a different story in New Jersey. It's tightening in New Jersey, right? Republicans got the closest they had come in years. You have a tight race now. Both sides spending more than $100 million. What's happening in New Jersey? Is it the taxes? Is it the cost of energy? Is it all that?
Well, let's start by saying that New Jersey should be going Republican this year if this was normal.
Because of the
normal circumstances. You have an
historically.
Historically, you have an incumbent Democratic governor who's been there for 8 years. He's not particularly popular. Since 1961 have you had a candidate of the same party succeed a 2-term governor of that party. So by all accounts, Jack Ciattarelli should be winning. However, if you look at turnout in New Jersey today, and you look at where the turnout is, it is through the roof, exceeding 2021 in places like Hudson County, places like Essex County, in places like Middlesex County, Mercer County, all Democratic counties, all Democratic cities. And you are seeing tremendous turnout in places where Donald Trump did not do so poorly last year. And to Ashley's point, what you're seeing right now is a huge blowback against the president. There is no reason on earth why Jack Ciattarelli would not be governor tonight if Donald Trump were not in the White House.
Krisha, speaking of President Trump, there were no huge rallies this time around. There were no convention halls sold out, and he had backed Ciattarelli in New Jersey. How come he didn't appear with him? I know there was virtual appearances, but that's not really the Trump style.
I would agree. It's not necessarily Trump's style. Look, we all know Donald Trump is not on the ballot, and sometimes his influence doesn't necessarily help the voting process, especially in a state. So you think it was calculated? He's always calculated. He knows exactly what he's doing. I think his endorsement of Jack Ciattarelli could not have been any stronger, at least what he put on Truth Social in that respect. But I think despite the fact that he's not on the ballot, I am optimistic that this will be positive for the midterms for Republicans. Look, it's an off year. There's low propensity Republican voters who are not enticed to get out to the polls, but I still have a lot of hope for Ciattarelli.
Let's talk about New York City, Hogan. The president sort of putting his thumb on the scale, at least trying to, in the last day of this campaign yesterday, saying, vote for Andrew Cuomo, trying to knock out Mamdani. Does he have any effect in this race, and could he have possibly hurt Cuomo by getting involved?
I don't think he hurts Cuomo because I think Cuomo hurts himself. He was a horrific governor. I mean, his basic campaign was, I'm here to kill old people and grab ass. He was all out of old people, so he had a big problem moving forward. When you run campaigns, it matters how you run them and it matters what issues you're running on. It is obvious that Mamdani is someone that has captivated the hearts and minds of the Democrat Party. It looks like that's which way the party is moving, into that radical left, that Marxist-based. That's what they're going to be moving forward. And while they all move and support him at this point, the question becomes, once he gets elected, and I do believe he is going to get elected, what happens moving forward? Does New York backlash after the failures and go back to like a Giuliani type, someone who can actually clean up the city? Or do they keep moving forward and doubling down on socialism and Marxism? So it's more, for me, not about tonight and more so about where the party, the Democrat Party, goes in a place like New York that is wildly Democratic. Of course, moving forward, what will his blowback be against the party should he continue to,
Ashley,
should he fail?
When you see Mamdani, do you think he's the future of the party? I mean, I will remind you, I mean, it was just 2020 when Democrats had a reckoning with the term socialist and Bernie Sanders, and that was one of the reasons why Joe Biden won that nomination. Or do you think he has the kind of energy and he's talking about things and he has the social media strategy to electrify Democrats?
No, I mean, I think there is a commonality between Bernie, who happens to be one of the most popular Democrats in the party right now. He's not actually in our party, but he's one of the most popular, well-known Democrats. And Mamdani is because they are hyper-focused on affordability. I'm not sure what is extremist and Marxist about being able to afford your rent, being able to afford groceries, being able to live a life with dignity. And that's what Democrats are focused on. I just recently met with Ken Martin, who's the head of the DNC, and he said, listen, we're going in on all of these races. We're double downing investing record numbers in both of these particular states, hyper focused on affordability. We're not even talking about Donald Trump unless it's connected to the economy. And it's proven to be a winning message.
The campus protests that happened last year across college campuses all across the country didn't help Democrats. And Mamdani sort of stumbled when it came to issues on Hamas and what was happening with the war in Gaza. He had to play cleanup a couple different times. Does that worry you that he's not ready for prime time?
I'm not concerned about that at all. I mean, the reality is people aren't hyper-focused on that issue now. What they're focused on is making ends meet. They're focused on surviving. And I think that's what he's tapped into. And in fact, it's almost a playbook from Donald Trump. And so the reality is it's a winning message, and we're seeing it play out right now.
But Linda Sarsour, for example, did come out and say, listen, we're holding this guy's feet to the fire. He said he wanted to dismantle the NYPD. We want that to happen. He said we want to take over a means of production. We want that to happen. And if he doesn't do that, if he doesn't try to arrest Bibi Netanyahu when he comes to town. So this is where the party's headed, and it seems like the full-on embrace of that is occurring.
Julie,
Let me just say this. You guys hang out with Nick Fuentes, so I really don't want to hear any lectures from Republicans.
We don't hang out with Nick Fuentes, and we have always condemned it.
The president had dinner.
You guys endorsed
the president had dinner with Nick Fuentes, so don't tell me you don't hang out with him. Let me just say this. I will take that kind of advice from people that don't hang out with known anti-Semites like Nick Fuentes. What I will say is this. There is really not much difference between the affordability that we're talking about, the affordability that Zohran Mamdani is talking about, the affordability that Abigail Spanberger is talking about, and the affordability that Donald Trump talked about last year. Right. The difference is that he blew it. He was given a chance. And if you want to talk about socialism, let's talk about the $40 billion that we are bailing out your friends down in South America with. That's a big socialist bailout. Okay. The difference here is that you guys want to name call all you want, but you're not delivering on the
promise. He's telling it like it is. Don't be mad.
No, he calls himself a communist. He does.
Y'all forgive me, I ain't been on TV. I got the flu.
1 second, I want to go to Steve Kornacki. Steve, I know you got a new update out of Virginia and some
update out of Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, we continue to. It's really kind of pouring in right now, and the news is very good if you're a Democrat and a supporter of Abigail Spanberger. We started.
Yes, we are.
County, again, one of the largest in the state. We had 3/4 of the vote in the last time we checked in. We now have basically all the vote, and you can see, in fact, since the last time we checked in, Spanberger has improved her position here. This is now about a 29-point margin. So again, compare that to last year in the presidential election. This county last year was a 16-point margin for Democrats. That was considered a significant underperformance for Democrats. Now at 29 points, this is actually better.
Buddy. Yeah, buddy. That's you all's problem. That's you Republicans' problem. You seem to think we support candidates because they're black. We support the Democratic candidates that are smart and intelligent. We don't just vote for people because they're black. Y'all vote for people because they white. We don't vote for nobody because they just black. Y'all wild. That chick right there is a Republican. She a maggot. She is a MAGA. Ain't nobody vote for ain't nobody that's black voting for her. She talking 2-point crazy the other day. That's wild. And people are tired, sick and tired of Trump. That's why they voting it's a landslide. It's ugly, and it's gonna be even uglier for the ones that come tonight. Especially if we know Mamdani is gonna win Mamdani gonna win in New York. This lady right here gonna win in Virginia. We just need to know that next guy, that it may be the Jersey guy and the other chick. If they win all three, y'all, it's gonna be ugly for y'all. People can't stand Trump. I don't have to say nothing more. That's all you gotta do is look at the doggone polls. That's all you gotta do is look at the stats. Don't be mad at me. Go look at the stats. The stats been done told you that they can't stand your candidate. They been done told you. Y'all should have known. Y'all should have known. Wait a minute, hold on. Y'all should have known the minute he built Alligator Alcatraz. As soon as y'all built that elevator Alcatraz, it was over. Because nobody wanted to see no damn prison. Nobody wanted to see that prison with a woman with alligators around it.
The Republican counties that have reported, you have Earl Sears not quite even reaching the Trump level from last year. So if you're a Democrat, you went into this tonight looking at polls that had Spanberger not just ahead, but ahead by comfortable margins. And everything we've seen in the returns now, with 25% of the vote in statewide, is consistent with that.
All right, Steve, thank you. For more special election night coverage ahead, former New York.
Steve Kornacki, that dude doing the polls, he's the best in the business. That dude we just heard from is the best in the business. His polls have been accurate. Oh, no, Osmos God said, oh, y'all didn't vote for her because she was black? Hell no, we don't vote for people just because they black. We look at them and we say, okay, they black. Then we go and look at what their statistics are. Then we go and look at their credentials. Once we go look at their credentials and we know they qualified, then we back them. That's what we do. Y'all just back y'all people because they white. Y'all don't even look at the credentials. Y'all just say, oh, he talking that goofy shit. Oh, he talking about trans. Oh, he talking about not dealing with the trans people. He talking about dealing with not dealing with the homosexual people. He talking about no AB. He talking about none of that. Oh, yeah, let me vote for him. That's why I said you Republicans don't stand on nothing. You don't look at no credentials. You don't stand on nothing. You just vote for somebody. You got 1, 2 issues. Instead of voting for the one candidate that's going to move the country forward or help move the country forward, y'all don't never do that. Y'all just vote for one. We got a 34 count felon who I don't care whether he's a felon or not, but in every other measure, he's a trashy human being, and y'all still voted for him. You MAGA still voted for him. It didn't matter whether Kamala was an Indian. She could have been green. She could have been green. We still would have voted for her. We don't care whether she's black. We don't care. We knew her policies were better than this trash president. We knew that. That's all we needed to know. That's all we needed to know.
Weeknights at 7.
We didn't need to know nothing else except we didn't need to know nothing else except this president was trash, and anything he had to do with the American people would be trash. Alligator Alcatraz, we knew that
the mayoral race.
We knew what type of people the Republicans were when we found out they had made something called Alligator Alcatraz. We knew what type of people they were, that they didn't deserve to run no country.
So much for joining us live. Brad, you ran against Mondani.
JD, you think JD, somebody sassy? Ooh, you better sit down. Child, you better sit down with your little lady boy. You better sit down with your I don't know whether I'm straight or gay candidate. You better sit down.
Living. And then look,
they sound like great ideas to some people. You're the comptroller. Can you actually pay for it?
Then you need to roll over and pretend like you dead. Because if y'all put him up, we're gonna put up the most solid white Catholic boy ever. And we're going to burn y'all's ass.
Believe him or?
No. I mean, I'm hopeful. I mean, look, I cross-endorsed and then endorsed him in the general because I believe those are the right ideas.
No, we weren't going to vote for her because we heard the way she talks. We heard the way she was talking. She was talking, oh, we don't want them to do the socialists. We don't want our kids to go into the bathroom with the gays and the trans and all of that. That's the way she was talking. Don't nobody want to hear that. We already moved past the gay and the trans. Donald Trump done fucked up the economy so bad, we don't care about all that. We care about the economy now.
And Donald Trump telling us who to vote for. We don't want Stephen Miller telling us who to vote for. We don't want Elon Musk.
Yes, I heard of Tellerico. Yep.
Troops here. We don't want them taking our money. And I think this will be a moment when New Yorkers stand up together.
You brought up your faith. I do want to ask you, Mondani has been criticized and called out in his campaign for not condemning the phrase globalize intifada and for dodging questions about Hamas disarmament. in a debate.
Oh, wow.
As a Jewish American, does that give you pause? Do you know who you're getting into business with?
Let's be clear. He's condemned Hamas and the attacks of October 7th. He never said globalize the Intifada. And then after listening to Jews talk about what it means to us, he started discouraging people from saying it.
He has had some
met
hiccups, and it has been unclear, to be fair.
But look, on a primary night, he said, I'm going to go out and meet Jewish New Yorkers. He came to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur services with me. He's talked to dozens and dozens of groups. He's going to work hard every day to keep Jewish New Yorkers and all New Yorkers.
No thanks, you libertarian tards like to roll back civil rights stuff. You can keep your libertarian bullshit.
Well, it's really about what you're getting. I think if we increase the corporate tax rate in order to provide child.
I don't need folks. Do your mama need folks, Caleb? Your mama need food stamps, Caleb? Because I don't need food stamps.
Care.
Brad, it was great to talk to you. I'll talk to you in a couple of months. We'll see how this ends up, and then we'll talk to see how the results are. But great to talk to you tonight. Thanks for being here.
Much.
Steve Kornacki, he's still in the house. He is working that board. The votes are coming in. He's getting excited. What do you got in Virginia?
Yeah.
I need to know that Jersey race. We need to know the Jersey race.
So you can see here we've had more of the Republican areas of the state that have.
I told you the Republicans don't know how to govern. They don't stand for nothing. You don't know what they believe in. Only thing they hate everything. Hate trans, gays, blacks, whites, immigrants. They don't stand for nothing. They just hate everything, but they don't stand for nothing.
Come in that has brought that statewide number.
And everybody's tired of that.
Inside of 10 points doesn't really change the broader dynamics that we've been discussing.
You see how Torn is talking in the chat, y'all? You see he's talking about cultural issue. You see he talking about what a woman is. He talking about what gay things are. He talking about what trans people are. Don't have no policies. Republicans don't stand on nothing. That's all they talk about is gays, trans, immigrants. They hate gays. They hate trans. They hate immigrant. They don't stand for nothing else but talking about gays and what a woman is and all that other garbage. Can't nobody stand the shit. Don't nobody want to hear that shit no more. We need to move forward because Donald Trump done ran our economy in the ground.
In terms of where Spamberger is overperforming, it just means a lot more of the sort of small rural areas that are very.
Don't nobody care about that. Only y'all care about that.
Very Republican.
And that's what gonna make you lose the election. That's what made this goofy lady right here. You see this black lady, this Earl Sears, that's what made her lose the race, talking that goofy shit.
Have come in. There's still a ton of vote to come out of the Northern Virginia area and around.
No, we don't, Caleb. We stand for homeless, veterans, elderly, the handicapped, and poor kids. That's what the Democrats stand for. What y'all stand for. Put it in the chat. I need to know what you Republicans stand for. But then again, I know what you stand for. You hate. That's all y'all do is hate.
Around Richmond. And one of the questions beyond the governor's race, I think that's gotten national attention out of Virginia is the race for attorney general. The Democrat there with those text messages from a couple years ago.
Yes, Sassy. They only think about insulting people. Insult. No, I said, what do you stand for that moves this country forward, Torn Harris? What do you stand for to move this country forward?
Where he talked about the idea of killing children and terrible, terrible things. And so the idea of
she's a bad candidate. Nobody's voting for this goofy candidate. She's talking about people in the bathroom, trans people in the bathroom. That's what y'all want to hang around our neck. It ain't gonna work. Donald Trump is so bad, it ain't gonna work.
He lose even if Spamberger's having a good night. Spamberger is having a good night right now. Take a look how many voters were willing to vote for Spamberger, but not for the Democratic candidate for Attorney General Jay Jones. Well, there certainly are some of them. That race now, Jones with a very narrow statewide lead over the incumbent, Itsmyracex, about a point right now. What's interesting is we're tracking around the state. Where is Jones running the closest with Spamberger, and where is the most separation? And a pattern's emerging, and it really has to do with the counties that we've been talking about. You're seeing the biggest gap between them. I can actually, instead of circling it, I can show it to you. You're seeing it in a place like Loudoun County, a 19-point margin here in the race for.
And Caleb, what y'all believe in, the Republicans believe in, give our money to the rich. Let all of our poor people give our money to the rich. Instead of helping the poor, We get the Republicans give their money to the rich.
Attorney General.
Just like y'all did in this big, beautiful bill, you gave all your money to the rich people. Rich man got y'all money, scammed y'all out of y'all money, and y'all gave it to the rich men. Ain't that nothing?
When you look at the governor's race, a 29-point margin. So there is a 10-point gap right there. You're seeing something similar in Chesterfield County here. It's a 15-point lead for Spanberger there in the governor's race. You take a look in the attorney general's race, it's only a 3-point. Now, what do those places have in common? And we're seeing this some others. These are places that have large populations of suburbanites, white-collar professionals. These are folks who are culturally.
You mean to tell me you ain't figured it out yet, Ozzy, that most of the people that's on EBT is you maggots? You ain't figured that out yet? Just dumb. Y'all the one that's mostly on EBT.
Liberal have gravitated.
Steve, I'm going to interrupt you here. NBC News can now project the winner of the Virginia governor's race
Hey!
is Abigail Spanberger. NBC News now projecting her as the winner of the Virginia governor's race. Steve, we were just talking about this throughout the night right now. All the momentum, all the voting, more Democrats coming out for, especially around those suburbs in D.C. You wonder.
But that's all you got to do, Ozzy Crosby. Wait a minute, hold on. Where's my proof? That's all you got to do is, Caleb, is go and type in, search for the top 10 food stamp recipient states, the top 10 food stamp recipient states, and almost 7 of y'all Republican states come up. Top 10.
How the Doge cuts, how the government shutdown, how that all affected the people that live around D.C. and how it affected their vote. And again, President Trump, he wasn't in this race. He didn't endorse Earl Sears. He didn't even mention her name. It was a very tough race for Republicans there. Too early to call in the Attorney General's race so far. And Steve, before you go, because I want to talk to two great political minds in about 30 seconds, explain to our viewers why we're just talking Virginia and we haven't talked about New Jersey or New York City or California yet.
Yeah, Tom, it's certainly not for lack of desire on my part, but in 6 minutes, the polls are going to close in New Jersey, and this thing is going to start to light up like a Christmas tree at 11 p.m. Eastern. That's going to happen out in California. 9 p.m. That's going to happen in New York City. So, yeah, we got a storyline to follow here, the AG's race, but in a few minutes, that governor's race in New Jersey, which we expect.
Because the country is starting to see all of these new voters are starting to see that the Republicans ain't voting for them. They ain't voting for their pocketbook. They ain't voting nothing to put in their pocket because the Republicans don't know how to govern when they're in charge. The only thing they know how to do is say hate, 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 hate. Can't none of them come on the TV and say nothing positive about nothing. They can't never say, well, we going to help y'all get Medicaid or Medicare. We going to help y'all do X, Y, and Z. The only thing they come on there and say is the socialist, democratic, Marxist, Democrat, Antifa Democrat, they want to take your rights away, Democrat. That's all they come on there and say is the hate, 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 hate. I'm saying, let's go, Democrats. Let's go. We got to get them out of office. We got to get them the hell out of there.
Expect to be the closer one, and where Republicans think they have a chance, is going to take center stage.
Steve Kornacki, thank you. We got about 3 minutes left. We got two of my favorites here. Moderator of Meet the Press, Kristen Welker, and NBC News senior Washington correspondent.
I thought you would do some doggone, what is it? Research torn hairs. Every state, look it up. The most crime-ridden states, the highest crime-ridden states, 7 of them are Republican states. 7 of them are you all states. Y'all need to be doing research.
Hallie Jackson, real quick, guys, what have we learned up to this point?
A
Kristen?
couple of things. Abigail Spanberger's message on the economy, affordability, clearly resonated. The Trump alliance, which included an increase.
Which basically means your governor didn't do jack shit to stop it. So your governor is weak. If your governor let Democrat states or Democrat cities run their shit in the ground, that means the governor ain't shit. So that means your Republican governor ain't shit.
And Latino voters, voters of color didn't necessarily hold. We saw that in counties like Loudoun County. Steve will break that down even more. And then the question that Democrats are going to ask themselves tomorrow, what can they take from this victory into the midterms?
Okay, then Hallie, a complicated question for you. So here we go.
Oh,
you got 3 blue states. You got California, you got New Jersey, and you got Virginia.
Sure.
We can debate if 2 of those are purple, but they're blue states because of what happened in the presidential race. And then you have New York City. So can we draw any narratives from this for the midterms? Because New York City is not really the suburbs of America, and we're talking 2 blue states.
100%. But think about what all those 3 races have in common if, in fact, the Democrats end up winning. It's a great question, and here's the through line that I'm thinking about. It's the economy. All of those candidates, the Democratic candidates, are running on affordability messages in different ways, right? They look different when they're coming out of Mamdani's mouth versus Abigail Spanberger's mouth, but that is still a through line here. So I've been talking to smart strategists on both sides of the aisle who say that may be the biggest takeaway for 2026. Can I tell you the question that I still have on Virginia, though? What's the margin going to be? Because that's going to tell us a lot about where this goes. And I spoke with one Republican who said, listen, if this is a smash in Virginia, a smash in Jersey, and Mamdani wins big on the economy and on that kind of messaging, President Trump may have to think about how he's messaging on the economy if it's not.
Hell yeah. If we have blowouts on all 3 of these states, Governor Newsom got to get that no vote. He's got to get that no vote or that yes vote for that prop 50 or 51. They voting tonight too. So let's see what goes on with the California vote. And then they can change the map over there. Thank you, Sassy Mo 529. Thank you for becoming a member. Thank you very much. Y'all hit the like button and the share button, the subscribe button. Please and thank you. We doing the thing over here. We might argue, we might fuss and fight, but hey, we all Americans and we all doing our thing. Cause I don't like the Republicans, don't mean I don't like you. It show Republican leaders I don't like. But it is what it is. Let's go, Democrats. Let's go.
Not resonating with some of these more moderates.
We're watching some of the celebrations at the Spanberger watch party. Crystal, real quick to you, the president ran on the economy. He won.
Well, she's the one that Obama went and seen, right? She's the one. Hey, love you too, Torn. We gonna argue back and forth. Me and you gonna fight all the way to next year, Torn. Me and you gonna fight all the way. I love the whole thing. We come over here, we gonna fight. We gonna fight, and then we gonna remember we love everybody. Okay. So we gotta wait for that damn Gavin Newsom. Look, I don't like that Gavin Newsom neither. And I don't know about his ass.
One on the economy. He's delivered on immigration. He's delivered on crime to his voters. But the economy is the big unknown.
That's right.
The economy is still the top issue for voters, Tom. And he, by his own admission, said,
Torn, you gonna beat me up sometime, and sometime I'm gonna beat you up. But hey, we still just a cog in the wheel. Cause we really we can't do jack shit. You feel what I'm saying? We can only sit over here and scream on the sideline.
That he got elected because he was good.
Did you say what? A plane crash? What? Yeah, independent. What? Hold on.
To bring down grocery prices. If you look at the prices at the grocery store.
Whoa, a plane crash? Hold on.
A lot of prices have gone up, from meat to bacon, just to name a few. And so I do think that there's going to be a hard look inside the White House at how they are handling grocery prices, the prices that people are paying, inflation, and of course, the backdrop to all of that, the president's tariff policy.
All right, Hallie, we got about 40 seconds left.
Lay it on me.
Give me 20 seconds. What do we expect tonight? What are we watching tonight from your coverage with Kristen over here?
3 big things. Number 1, margins. What are they if, in fact, the Democrats do end up pulling it out? And obviously any surprises. 2, this messaging on the economy, affordability. And 3, what you've been talking about with Steve, the Trump coalition. Do Latinos, do non-white voters in New Jersey, non-college educated voters in New Jersey, do they go for Chitterelli? Do they flip? Do they go for Mikey Sherrill here? And what about those low propensity voters, folks who don't turn out? Some interesting numbers we're seeing in the exits there, Tom.
Yeah.
Let's see how that plays out.
And the big unknown, Prop 50 in California. It's going to be a huge vote. That could change the entire direction of Congress. What are you going to say, Kristen?
It could.
20 seconds.
Gavin Newsom says it's going to pass. He says it's going to be a big night for Democrats. We'll have to see.
All right, and we are just 2 minutes away from our next major poll closing in New Jersey. Hallie and Kristen pick up our special election.
This is the one we got to watch out for. It's a close race.
Tonight, coverage right after this short break. We're going to have Kornacki. We're going to have the polls, the exit polls, too, where the country is headed, plus what's happening in California, New Jersey, and Virginia. It's all coming up. Don't go anywhere. Our night is just getting started here on NBC News Now.
And we also got to deal with that goofy motherfucker who was sending those texts. What's his name? James. We got to see what that goofy motherfucker do. Look, he said he wasn't going to step out of the race, but we really don't know who and what's going on with him. Okay. The goofy guy. So we gonna see.
Can take them and replicate them without Trump on the ballot. Here's a test tonight. Jack Ciattarelli in Hudson County. We got 40% of the vote. Again, I think a lot of this is going to be early vote and mail-in vote. So we'll see if...
What the hell is going on with that dude? With y'all boy? Jack, what the hell is wrong with that poll?
The same day changes the complexion of this vote at all, but you're seeing a 58-point advantage here from Mikey Sherrill early. So Ciattarelli not generating that Trump-level support here. Just taking a quick look, Bergen County, big classic suburban county here. This is one that we can show you, in fact. Last year, Kamala Harris won this by 3 points. We just got in one big batch here. So again, you can expect this is early vote. This is mail vote coming in right now. Sherrill matching that. We take a look down here, Ocean County. This is one of the biggest Republican plurality producing counties in the United States of America that you're looking at right here. Look at this margin Donald Trump got. Look how many people live in Ocean County. A lot of Republican counties around the country are small and they are rural. Ocean County is very big for a Republican county. This is an area where Jack Ciattarelli wants to absolutely run up the score. Now, again, you're looking at early vote. You're looking at vote by mail here. The Republicans are hoping that on the same day today, they're going to get massive turnout to be more Republican friendly. Ciattarelli's going to need that. He doesn't need 27 points out of Ocean County. You know, he needs 40 points out of Ocean County. So let's see as the same day comes in, if it moves in that direction. We just got one more here in South Jersey. Again, Gloucester County. Well, let's see. This is early. This is a low number right now for Ciattarelli, but again, same day to come in. So let's see if he gets that up there. But so far already in New Jersey, more than 10% of the vote is in, and you see the tally right there.
And Steve, just to follow up with you on what we're seeing in New Jersey and what we're watching for in New Jersey, we talk about the Trump coalition, which does include the fact that he was able to bring out more Latino voters, more voters of color. Passaic County is going to be critical tonight and a big test of that.
And we gonna see whether the Hispanic people learn their damn lesson. We gonna see if they got the goddamn memo. That's what we gonna see. We gonna see if you Hispanic motherfuckers got the goddamn memo. Okay? Alligator Alcatraz. That's all we gotta say.
Question.
Absolutely. I have been eyeing this every time we're talking to see. This is Passaic County right here, and I can't wait to see that one fill in. No results, but I could just show you. Donald Trump won this last year. You ask anyone in New Jersey if they ever thought they'd see a Republican presidential candidate carry Passaic again. This was an unthinkable result. 40% Hispanic in this county. We'll get a very interesting result when this comes in.
All right. Can I just talk about exit polls, too, when it comes to this issue? Because we're seeing some interesting stuff on that front. Steve, first of all, love you, obsessed with you. It's going to be such an interesting night as we're looking at all this stuff coming in. But when you look at what we're seeing in the exit polls, again, caveat, it is early. We're going to see more of these numbers come in. Right. But in New Jersey, when you look at some of this, 65%, I don't know if we have the graphic we can pull up here.
No, all them Hispanic people care about that alligator Alcatraz. They don't want to end up in that alligator Alcatraz.
But you saw the vote breaking, obviously, from Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey, the Latino vote. Same thing. Jack Ciattarelli was sitting at about 30% on that in the early exit polls in New Jersey. So it's an interesting tell. I think the more interesting data point is going to be what happens in some of those counties you're talking about here. But when you look at this question of the Trump coalition, it's in talking with Democratic strategists who've been involved in this race and Republican strategists. Low propensity voters as well. Are they showing up when Donald Trump is not officially the name on the ballot there?
And it's the impact on the economy, which is still the number one issue for these voters that we're seeing in these exit
polls. We'll talk about that more too. I'm gonna do some walking here, Chris. I'm gonna walk over to that wall and talk you through it. Yeah.
Walk on over. All right. While you're doing that, Hallie, let's go out to NBC's Ryan Nobles. He is at Democrat Abigail Spanberger's headquarters in Richmond, Virginia. Ryan, the celebrations must be beginning there.
You're absolutely right, Kristen. I've covered 5 Virginia gubernatorial elections. I've been in rooms where the candidate didn't win. I've been in rooms where the candidate has won. And you knew right from the start that Democrats felt like they were going to have a good night. The second the doors opened, people came.
We need New Jersey to pull it out. We need New Jersey to pull it out. Everybody seems to be good. We need New Jersey to come on out.
Pouring in. You can see behind me, it is a packed shoulder-to-shoulder crowd. And when NBC News first made that call that Abigail Spanberger was going to be elected the first female governor in Virginia history, the crowd absolutely erupted.
Hey.
Happy to have the governor's mansion back after 4 years of Republicans being in charge here in Virginia. Now,
I know y'all love y'all some Donald Trump, but these people do not like no Donald Trump. They do not like his policies. People do not like his policies. It just is what it is. It's gonna be a fight. I'm telling you, Republicans is burnt the fuck up. They are burnt the fuck up. Telling you.
It's a long list of reasons why Democrats believe that they were successful in Virginia shutdown, but the decisions made by the Trump administration to scale back the federal workforce leading into the government shutdown and the other decisions made by the Trump administration. So there are certainly some good takeaways that Democrats can take from what we saw here tonight in Virginia in terms of economic messaging, kitchen table issues, avoiding getting too far into the weeds in these cultural issues, which Spanberger's opponent, Winsome Sears Earl, really kind of made the hallmark of her campaign.
And then that's the whole point. She made her that black lady who was running against the white lady that Obama came out and campaigned for. She made gays and trans and AB. She made her campaign about hating people. She made her campaign about gays and trans and immigrants and all that taking over the country. Gays be in the bathroom, trans. She made her campaign about that, and she ran it in the ground. I told you, Black America, don't nobody want to hear about that. We already went past that. You ain't gonna win no election talking about the Democrats only want gays and trans in your house. Done with that.
But at the same time, it's not necessarily something that can be extrapolated out or duplicated across the country because of the way that Virginia is so heavily influenced by what happens with the federal government. So no doubt, though, Virginia Democrats had a plan. They executed that plan. And Kristen, tonight, they were very successful.
They certainly were. We will continue to track what that final margin turns out being. Worth noting, former President Barack Obama out campaigning with Abigail Spanberger. President Trump did not endorse Winsome Earl Sears. All right, Ryan, thank you so much for that. Joining me now is Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. He has been a big supporter of the mayoral candidate here in New York City, Zohran Mamdani, a Democratic Socialist. Senator, thank you so much for joining me on this election night.
My pleasure.
So let's just set the scene. Polls close in just under an hour now in New York. How are you feeling? You think that Mr. Mamdani is going to pull it out tonight?
Well, as I understand it, the turnout is extraordinary. And as somebody who very much believes in democracy, worries about the future of American democracy, I am glad to see that the turnout, I think, is the largest in 30 or 40 years. So that's a good sign.
Yes.
My question for you, Senator, if he is in fact successful tonight, what, if anything, can and should Democrats nationally take from his victory? We just called Virginia for Abigail Spanberger for the governor's race. These are very similar messages in some ways on the economy.
Because it takes a pulse of the country. How it's not a matter of New York, New Jersey, or Virginia, because we know 9 times out of 10 they're going to turn blue. It's the margins. It's what what we're looking at is what the Republican people do in those states, not the Democrats. What you look for when you see these kind of races, you look for what the enthusiasm is for the Democrat. Last time the enthusiasm for the Democrats, we didn't have any because they didn't really like Kamala. So the enthusiasm was down. So we look for the enthusiasm with the Democrats. And then you look for how many people in the Republican Party turn out and what their enthusiasm is like. Is their enthusiasm tampered down? Do they not care? Did they turn and go to the Democrat? You look for those kind of things. You don't look for you don't look at the win. You look at the margins, okay?
That they want to make the life more affordable for their constituents, and yet very different visions for how to do that. What should Democrats take from it?
I think you're right. We will see what the election results are in New York City before I pontificate. But I think Mamdani has run an extraordinary campaign. And one lesson that must be learned is that if you have a message that speaks to working people, to ordinary people, that you are prepared to take on the oligarchs in New York City. They have spent millions and millions of dollars trying to defeat him. And what he is saying is that in New York, and in fact throughout the country, we need a government that represents working people, the middle class, who are having a hard time now being able to afford housing, childcare, transportation, health care. That we need a government that represents them and not the people on top. I think the message, if he does well, is that people are tired of establishment politics. They understand that in America, the people on top have never, ever had it so good, while 60% of us live paycheck to paycheck. They want real change and candidates with the courage to take on the big money interests.
Senator, it's Hallie Jackson. Thanks for being on with us tonight. Question for you, because to your point here on the working class and on Democrats appealing to them, we have seen voters today in New York City tell our exit pollers again and again they care about affordability. They think that the cost of their housing is a problem. The vast majority said that. But they also, based on these early exit polls, suggested more than half of voters in these early exit polls suggested that Mr. Mamdani's policies were not realistic. This has obviously been an attack line from Andrew Cuomo in this race. How does Zohran Mamdani combat that perception that he is putting out some of these pie-in-the-sky ideas and doesn't have a realistic way to back that up? How does he combat that if he does do well?
To make sure that people in New York, and in my view, all over the country, in the richest country in the history of the world, can afford housing. That is not a radical idea. What is a radical idea, if I may say so, is Trump giving $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and throwing 15 million people off the health care they have. That is a radical idea. Thinking that climate change is a hoax is a radical idea. We cannot become accustomed to a nation in which one guy on top, Mr. Musk, owns more wealth than the bottom 52% of American society. So I don't agree with you. It is not radical to say that we should have the best child care system in the world if we believe in our kids and if we believe in the future of this country. It's not radical to say that we should have efficient and fast and free bus service. These are not radical ideas. What is radical is that we have more income and wealth inequality than we've ever had. That's got to change.
Senator Kristen, again, quick question. You raised President Trump. He has threatened to pull federal funding from New York City if Mr. Mamdani is elected. Does that concern you? Do you think that that's a realistic threat? And do you think he may have shaken up this race with that last-minute endorsement of Andrew Cuomo?
We will find out. Look, it's not just New York. He's threatening not to fund programs in Vermont and California. For the first time in the history of this country, you have a president who's acting so illegally, so unconstitutionally. It is insane. What this guy is saying is, oh, you voted against me, therefore you can't get federal funds. Is that really the United States of America? Is that really the way a president should behave? No president, not Republican or Democrat before this, has ever suggested that.
Senator, if in fact Mr. Mamdani is successful, I wonder what you would like him to work on day one. What should his day one priority be? As Hallie was just noting, he has laid out a long agenda, which includes free public transportation, government-owned supermarkets, government child care. What should be issue one for him?
Well, look, this guy has run a brilliant campaign, and I have every reason to believe he's going to do a great job as mayor if he wins. So I'll let him decide what his priorities are. But I would simply say that right now in Vermont, New York City, all over this country, we have a child care system which is absolutely broken at a time when psychologists tell us that the years 0 through 4, Kristen, are the most important 4 intellectual and emotional development for human beings. So making sure that every kid in this country, in New York City, gets the proper early childhood care that they need, to me, is enormously important. And
he the only one up there on that damn hill that make fucking sense. The rest of them, Democrats and Republicans, don't make no fucking sense. This dude right here is the only one got fucking skin in the game, and he's got balls to tell him the truth, and he's the only one to give a damn about the regular, everyday, ordinary people. This dude right here. The rest of them can go fly. I take one of him, and then I take him up against any Republican any day of the week, any Democrat any day of the week. This dude right here.
New York can set the example for the rest of the country.
All right, Senator Bernie Sanders, thank you so much for being with us on this election night. We will continue to watch the returns. We really appreciate your perspective, Senator. Thank you. We do want to get out to New Jersey now, where those polls just closed. NBC's Stephanie Gosk
come on, y'all.
is at Mikey
Come on,
Sherrill's
y'all.
headquarters
We
in New
need
Brunswick,
y'all.
and NBC's Julie
Come
Sirkin
on, y'all.
is at Jack Chiarelli's headquarters in Bridgewater. Thank you both for being here. Stephanie, let me start with you. What is the mood there? How optimistic are they?
Kristen, the mood's good. I mean, you saw those numbers coming in. People here are getting very excited. You know,
you don't need no free handouts guilty of being right. Other people need handouts. That's the whole point. The whole point is there's other people who need handouts. You may not need them, but other people do need them. So the whole point is to make sure that they have them if they need them.
interesting listening to Bernie Sanders talk about Zoran Mondani and then compare that just over the Hudson River to the candidate for governor for the Democratic Party here.
Yeah, Jasmine good too.
In the state, Mikey Sherrill, former Navy pilot, federal prosecutor, moderate Democrat who flipped a red county in 2018 to go to Congress. She is a very different kind of candidate. I had a chance to talk to her today, and I said, so which brand is it? Is it the Mondani brand, or is it the Mikey Sherrill brand? And she said that one of the things you may be able to take away from this election is which brand works better. But one of the things they are watching very closely here, and they have reason to feel good about it right now, is turnout and enthusiasm. And second to that is what is driving people to the polls. And there's a number that you should focus on in the exit polls, that 38% of people said they came to the polls because they were opposing Trump. Now that's important because Mikey Sherrill has tied this campaign.
Y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that?
Jack
they came to the polls. The bulk of the people came to the polls because they were opposing Donald Trump. And that's going to be how it is all over the country. They don't like what he's doing because he's a bought and paid for shrill for the rich.
To Donald Trump, accusing Donald Trump of making the affordability so difficult in
Not if you're handicapped, Taylor.
That's the principal issue for people in New Jersey. On the flip side, you have the Republican candidate saying, well, hang on, there's been a Democrat at the governor's office in this state for 8 years, and Donald Trump has been in office for 11. So they really do believe in a lot of ways that their success tonight hinges on whether people believe that the lack of affordability in this state is because of Donald Trump and because Jack Chiarelli is attached to him, that they should vote for Mikey Sherrill, Kristen.
Well, and Steph, you take me perfectly over to Julie, who's at Jack Chiarelli's campaign headquarters, because this has been the challenge for Jack Chiarelli. He has, in some instances, embraced President Trump. He has not campaigned with President Trump, even though there were some telecalls that took place in the closing hours of this campaign. And this is really the first referendum on how voters feel about President Trump, clearly looming large over this race in New Jersey, Julie.
Absolutely, Kristen, and that is exactly the question that I asked Jack Ciattarelli yesterday when we were at a bar in Totowa, New Jersey at 10:30 in the morning where the Guinness was flowing. As a Jersey girl, only in New Jersey could you see that the day before the election. And he told me my opponent wants to make this race all about Donald Trump, putting some daylight between him and the president that he has backed this time around, different than his last two runs for governor, and also a president that has clearly endorsed him. The issues, as Stephanie laid out, are affordability. New Jersey has some of the highest property taxes in the country. I heard that from voters on both sides of the aisle, both Democrats and Republicans, telling me they love New Jersey, but they feel like they are getting priced out. They might have to move because they can't afford to live here. Cheryl has promised to freeze electricity prices, a Republican voter today telling me what good does that do? The prices are already so high. But certainly Ciattarelli feeling like he can ride in some ways the president's coattails. As you heard Steve Kornacki lay out all night, Trump was able to really eat into the margins as far as blue states goes in New Jersey, probably the most of any. You see the energy in the room behind me. The polls just closed. They just started letting people in here. There are a lot of MAGA hats. There are a lot of Make New Jersey Great Again hats. Ciattarelli's campaign feeling positive, but today is all about turnout for him, not only in Somerset County, where I am right now, also in Ocean County, a red county, as you heard Steve talking about there, but also Passaic. That's where I was yesterday, talking to primarily Latino voters, where Ciattarelli has focused a large portion of his time during this campaign, knowing that he needs to win over those voters, just like the president did in November, in order to have a shot at winning this race. One of the advantages that Ciattarelli has here, similar to Spanberger in Virginia, he can present himself as the change candidate. Phil Murphy has been in office for 2 terms. Ciattarelli can say that Cheryl will be a continuation of that, and hopefully in his mind, he'll win tonight because of it.
All right, Julie Sirkin, thank you so much. We'll continue to check back in with you throughout the night. Let's get back to NBC News Chief Data Analyst Steve Kornacki, who has some new insights into the results so far in New Jersey, and Republican Jack Ciattarelli. What do you have, Steve?
Okay, so what we have, Kristen, is a quarter of the vote statewide, and you're looking at this and you're saying, wow, Mikey Sherrill is absolutely clobbering Jack Ciattarelli. Well, what we don't have yet anywhere in the state are the returns for votes that were cast today at the polls, which we expect to be more Republican friendly than the votes that were cast by mail or that were cast early in the early voting process. So what's been reported out in these counties is some combination of the vote by mail, which we know to be generally a very Democratic favorable type of vote, and early in person. So essentially what you're seeing here is the best that it's going to be for Mikey Sherrill in the counties that have reported so far. So I'll give you an example. Take a look down here. This is Burlington County. So you're talking about, it's geographically big, but a lot of the population is sort of along the Delaware River in here, outside of Philadelphia, Philadelphia's suburbs, bedroom communities. Okay, so about half the vote is in, and Sherrill's winning this by 31 points. That is mail vote. That is early in-person vote. What's now going to happen is the rest of the vote's going to fill in. It's going to be the vote that was cast today, Election Day. What does Ciattarelli need to do here? He probably doesn't need to win Burlington County, but I can show you this was 17 points last year, and it was 7 points when Jack Ciattarelli nearly won the governorship 4 years ago. So the same day vote, Ciattarelli, you can see, is going to have to win it by a very big margin, and he's got to get it down at least to this level where it was 4 years ago. So we're going to be keeping an eye. What does that same day vote look like when it comes in Burlington County? Is Ciattarelli winning it by a wide margin? You're going to see that up here in Bergen County. We have all the early vote. We have the vote by mail in Bergen County.
Y'all see that score down at the bottom? That Jones dude, that dude that said them bogus shit. He a Democrat, but he a piece of shit for what he said, right? Well, he said something about shooting somebody or guns. I don't know what he said. He said some crazy shit. But they still win because if he win, that mean they really don't like Donald Trump. They really don't want nobody else to get the job if he wins. This dude down at the bottom, this Jones dude.
That's a massive lead for Mikey Sherrill. That lead is going to come down as the same day vote comes in. How far? Well, it was a 3-point race in the presidential race last year. This is a county. If Jack Ciattarelli is going to have a chance tonight, I think he wants this county to be red by the end of the night. So again, as that same day vote comes in, he's got to win it by a big margin. And I think that's the benchmark for him right there.
Yeah.
We're seeing it, look, this is a small county right here, but this should be by the end of the night for Ciattarelli. If he's going to have a chance, this should be a double-digit Republican county. Again, This is the vote by mail. This is the early vote. This is as good as it gets for Sherrill. The rest...
Since your mama got a channel.
Story of the rest of the night in Hunterdon and all of these other counties where you're seeing vote so far is going to be Ciattarelli-friendly vote. How friendly is that vote? Is it enough to hit some of the benchmarks that I'm laying out for him? That's what the governorship in New Jersey is going to hinge on. And by the way, we don't see it yet. I just want to tell you, I am really looking for the results out of this county. This is a big suburban county here. You've got a mix of wealthy suburban towns. You've got some blue-collar towns as well. Donald Trump won here by 3 points. Typically, this is a key county for Republicans if they're going to have a chance statewide. The twist in this county and why I think it's so important is Morris County is what Mikey Sherrill represents in Congress. She was the first Democrat to flip the district here in a long time when she won it in 2018. Is she getting an overperformance in her incredibly crucial home county tonight? Because this is one where Chitterelli cannot afford to underperform.
And Steve, just very quickly, just to remind people, this is the third time Jack Chitterelli has run for governor. Last time he got within inches, 3 points. But he's got to outperform what he did last. I mean, last time he had a fairly strong showing, but it's got to be even stronger than that.
Yeah, and what's interesting, Kristen, is, I mean, I'll put them both up here side by side so you can see. Donald Trump lost this state by about 6 points last year, and that was for Trump, that was a big improvement from 2020. And as you mentioned, Chitterelli only lost it by 3 points. The one thing to keep in mind is they did this with completely different coalitions. Okay, so I was just talking about, Morris County, Somerset County, Morris County, places like this. Chitterelli was getting big improvements over Trump. And then Trump the bottom fell out for Trump last year. Trump made his gains in the urban, non-white parts of New Jersey. Between those two coalitions, the suburbs where Chitterelli did well and the cities where Trump did well, there's a winning coalition for Republicans if you can combine them. That is elusive. That's been elusive.
We gotta make sure that these Hispanic people learn their lesson. Let's hope you Hispanic people got the message.
For Republicans in modern times, if Chitterelli could pull that off tonight, he would.
We sent up smoke signals. Donald Trump got your alligator Alcatraz. Let's hope y'all got the smoke signals.
Win.
All right. We will check back in with you in just a few minutes, Steve. But now we do want to turn to our next guest. Joining me now is New York Representative and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Leader Jeffries, thank you so much for joining us on this election night.
Hakeem,
good evening. Great to be with you.
It's great to have you. I'm here with my colleague, Hallie Jackson. We've got a couple of questions for you. We have to start in your home city right here of New York. You did, in the home stretch, endorse the Democratic nominee, Zohran Mamdani. As you know, President Trump endorsed Andrew Cuomo overnight. Governor Cuomo telling me today he thinks, yes, that's going to earn him a few more of the Curtis Sliwa votes. Do you think that Mamdani can have a victory tonight?
Yes, Zohran's going to be the next mayor of the city of New York. He's run a relentlessly focused campaign on affordability. The cost of living is way too high in New York City, in the communities that I represent and all across the city of New York. That, in fact, is the case we know throughout the country. And of course, Donald Trump hasn't kept his promise to lower costs. In fact, he said he was going to lower costs on day one. Costs aren't going down. They're going up all across the country. Grocery prices up, housing costs up, childcare costs up, utility prices through the roof. And now, as we've been working our way through this Trump shutdown in Washington, D.C., Republicans want to increase health care premiums on tens of millions of Americans because of their refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credit. So I think Zohran's going to win, and it's going to be incumbent upon all of us in the city of New York to make sure that he is as successful a mayor as he can possibly be.
Oh, I forgot to say, the reason why the subsidies and the ACA is high or is out of whack with affordable prices is because the Republicans took the individual mandate away from the ACA program. When they took the individual mandate away from the ACH, the Obamacare, Medicaid, that made the prices skyrocket. The Republicans made it skyrocket to how much it was. The Republicans did that.
So, Leader Jeffries, it's Hallie Jackson, by the way. Thanks for being with us. Let me ask you this, because you've also suggested that Zohran Mamdani is not the face of the future of the Democratic Party. And there are those around him who think you're wrong on that, who think he potentially has real appeal beyond simply New York City. We could talk all day about how special and unique New York is. I get it. It's not a place where you necessarily will extrapolate nationally if you're a Democrat. But can you talk a little bit more about that piece of it and what through lines you see now that you might be talking with your conference about come 2026 ahead of the midterms? If, you've seen already Abigail Spanberger sail to a win, if Mamdani comes out big in New York, if Mikey Sherrill is able to pull it out in Jersey.
Right.
Well, it's my expectation that Mikey Sherrill is going to be the next governor of the state of New Jersey, that we're going to win the statewide races in Pennsylvania. We're going to crush it in California. We've seen Democrats actually win.
That's what people keep forgetting. Republicans shut the government down just to take away the individual mandate. So the mandate, if you would have left the mandate in place, Medicare would have been perfect for everybody. We would have had affordable insurance for everybody. But once they took the mandate away, insurance companies could charge whatever they want to for people to be on health insurance.
Statewide in Georgia. And of course, Abigail Spanberger coasted to victory. And it looks like every single Democrat on the statewide ticket in the Commonwealth of Virginia is also going to win. This is a rout for Democrats all across the country. Now, as House Democrats, what we've said from the very beginning of this year is that we need to relentlessly focus on driving down the high cost of living and fixing our broken healthcare system that Donald Trump and Republicans are making worse by the day. And as long as we stay on these kitchen table pocketbook issues, while of course addressing the extremism that Donald Trump and Republicans continue to unleash on the American people, what we're seeing tonight is going to be replicated a year from now when Democrats take back control of the House of Representatives.
You think they could do the Senate as well? You just called it a rout tonight. It sounds like you think they'll flip the House. You think they could do the same for the Senate?
I think the Senate is going to be a big surprise a year from now, particularly if the trend lines continue to move in our direction. Keep in mind, listen, we've won every statewide race that has been held this year. Starting with the Wisconsin State Supreme Court race in April. We've won all of the high-profile special elections, beginning in a state Senate seat in Iowa in January that Donald Trump had just won a few months prior by 21 points. So what we're seeing tonight is the culmination of something that has been building since the very beginning of the Trump presidency, which has been a complete and total failure of Republican control of government.
Leader Jeffries, let me ask you, because, of course, this election night occurring against the backdrop of what is poised to be the longest government shutdown now in U.S. history. There has been some discussion that lawmakers, the Senate in particular, getting closer to a potential off-ramp.
No, the whole point is the Republicans want y'all to starve. That's all. Republicans want y'all to starve. They just ain't accepted it yet. The zombies ain't accepted that their bosses want them to starve. Their bosses, their Republican bosses don't care about them. They haven't accepted that yet.
At this hour, are you optimistic that you will be able to end this government shutdown this week?
Well, we've said from the very beginning, listen, we want to sit down with Republicans.
Sheila Davis, if you think they give a damn about you, then you more of a zombie than I thought.
And we're willing to do so anytime, any place, in order to reopen the government, in order to enact a spending agreement that actually makes life better for the American people. But at the same time, we have to decisively address the Republican health care crisis. We've also said as House Democrats that we will evaluate in good faith.
That's right, Sassy.
Anything that is bipartisan that emerges from the Senate. Part of the problem that we've confronted over the last 35 days, Donald Trump has spent more time on the golf course than he has in talking with Democrats who represent half the country.
Why ain't none of the Republicans talking to the Democrats? Why they ain't doing anything? You know, I know plenty about you. You came on here, Sheila Davis, saying I lie. And everybody knows they don't care about you. Name three things. Name something that the big, beautiful bill got your ass. What did the big, beautiful bill get for you, Sheila Davis? Not a damn thing. What did the $40 billion that Donald Trump sent to Argentina did for you, Sheila Davis? What did he do? He shut the damn government down. He don't give a damn about none of us. He give a damn about lining his pockets, which is all he ever cared about, because he had plenty of zombies to fall behind him and fall in line like you.
He's completely and totally disinterested in reopening the government that he shut down.
Yeah, we're evil, but we gonna win. We win it. God fall, but we win it.
In fact, he's trying to weaponize.
I know exactly what I'm talking about. The reason why freaking Medicaid and Medicare and the ACA and the Medicare exchange units, all of those things are high because of the Republicans, because they got rid of the individual mandate. That's why the stuff is high. I do know that. Just wild. Zombies just be talking, don't know nothing.
Starvation, breaking the law, withholding SNAP benefits,
he ain't stop no damn wars. He damn sure didn't stop no war over there in Gaza. They still breaking them folks off. I don't know what I'm talking about, Godfall. You right. Hit that hate button.
Find a dime to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, while at the same period of time can find $40 billion to bail out a right-wing wannabe dictator in Argentina.
Yep, he can find $40 billion to give a right-wing Zaganut. He can give that money to him, but he can't give y'all no food stamp. And you Republican, you MAGAs get the most food stamps more than anybody. And y'all champion letting y'all government just treat y'all any old kind of way. Get the money to the rich man, and the rich man get the money to other rich men. And then y'all sitting over there needing food stamps. Y'all sitting over there supporting them, and he ain't gave you nothing out of the big, beautiful bill. Not one doggone thing. He ain't helped the poor people yet. And he bankrupted the farmers. Y'all MAGAs are wild.
Extraordinary stuff. And the American people are rejecting it. They know the country is moving in the wrong direction. So I'm hopeful that, Senate Republicans will come to their senses sooner rather than later and sit down to negotiate.
I want y'all to pay attention to Godfall. G-A-W-N fall. I want y'all to pay attention to her or him or whatever. You notice that in they rant, that's all they're talking about is hating illegal immigrants. That's all they're talking about is illegal immigrants. They're not talking about putting money in your pocket. They're not talking about lowering the food prices. They're not talking about lowering the gas. They're not talking about giving people housing. You see that that's all they talk about is illegals, black and brown people, trans people. They don't talk about nothing but illegals. They can't govern, because that's all they talk about is issues that don't have nothing to do with nothing. They don't talk about food prices. They're not talking about giving you money in your pocket. They're not talking about nothing. You notice, everybody, Godfall, first thing out of their mouth is the Democrats want to give illegals food stamp. They already done debunked that. And this person is in the chat still talking the zombie talk, still talking that illegal immigrant. Next thing you know, she's going to be talking about trans. Next thing you know, she's going to be talking about getting the people out in the borders. They don't talk about nothing but illegals and trans and gay people. They don't have no solutions.
Negotiate a bipartisan path forward.
All right. Leader Jeffries, thank you so much for your time tonight. We really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
We do have breaking news now. Abigail Spanberger.
We did debunk it, Goofy. That's all you got to do is go look up the law that I put in the chat every time I go live. PRWORA 104 to 193, law 1996, says no illegal aliens can get food stamps, Section 8, Medicaid, Medicare. It's a federal law, Goofy. Go look it up.
Is taking the stage in Virginia right now for her victory speech. You see the crowds there cheering her on as she approaches the podium.
A big moment for her, a big moment for Democrats. I spoke with one strategist who said, get me to this point, right? First, obviously, female governor of Virginia here. She is taking the stage. and potentially, you know, maybe, depending on how things go in New Jersey, helping to provide for Democrats a roadmap in some ways on how to run, on the messaging, on lashing her opponent to Donald Trump, specifically on the issue of affordability and of cost of living and the economy, as we've been talking about so much tonight.
So how do you propose the Democrats would be fighting for them to get Medicaid and Medicare if these people claim that they're legal? How would they know that they're illegal then, Godfall? How would anybody know if they claim to be legal, Godfall? Just be saying any old thing. How would anybody know then if they're illegal, if they claim to be legal, and then they get the services because they're legal? They say they legal. How we know they illegal? Goofy.
Listen, big transition from a governor who remains popular in that state, and Governor Glenn Youngkin.
Absolutely, and you heard Leader Jeffries there lean into your question that the implications for tonight will be significant heading into the midterm elections. This is a playbook. This is a roadmap, and we should say this is
who Obama went and endorsed. What we're really waiting on is to see what happened with New Jersey, that one guy, and we're waiting to see what happened with Governor Newsom in California with that Proposition 50 or something like that. We're waiting to see whether that is a win. Those are the two things that we're concerned about tonight. We understand the system is messed up, Robert. We understand that, but the reason why I say we got to get the Republicans out of office is because, we got to get them out of being in charge, because they're not giving any pushback to this president. And this president needs pushback. So the only people that are going to push back on him is the Democrats. We need pushback from this president. Okay, we can't just and the Republicans ain't willing to do their job. They're not willing to push back on him. They're just letting him do whatever he wants to do. And most of us don't like what's going on. So this is where we're at. We want the Republicans out of office so then Donald Trump has pushback.
It's also an historic moment. She becomes the first female.
Yes, of course, CJ Rogers, Goofy. Why would we back a black woman who doesn't have our agenda in mind? The only thing that Black MAGA woman did was talk about trans, gays, immigrants, just like Goofy Gone Fall did. The minute Gone Fall got a chance to get a platform, she started talking about immigrants, asylum seekers, Obama, Biden. They ain't talking about no issues that help the American people. When you start talking about stuff that don't matter to the American people, they care about their food and the prices and housing and gas. Stop talking about illegal immigrants. If you want to win races, you need to shut the hell up about gays, trans, illegal immigrants, and shit like that, and start talking about food and prices and gas and eggs and things like that. But the minute they got a platform, the Republicans sitting back talking about gays, trans, Marxists, Antifa, everything that don't matter to the American people. The American people are hurting. And you see, the first thing that the goofies come in the chat and do, get to talk about Biden or illegal immigrants. That's wild. Yes, I sure am Godfall, low IQ. You're the low IQ person that came in here talking about trans and gays and Biden and immigrants. Goofy.
Of Virginia, there was going to be a woman governor regardless.
Room.
That's right. But that governor elect is now Abigail Spanberger, and you see her there working the crowds as she approaches the podium. Let's listen in to what she has to say. Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger.
Now you mad. Now you mad, Godfall. Now you mad. Nobody said anything about race. We're not talking about race. We're talking about pocketbook issues. You're the one in here calling people names, Goofy. You're the one in here saying goofy stuff. We're in here saying we care about the food and the prices and things like that. You're talking about dumb shit. didn't say anything about racist. I know I didn't say that word. Just for the retards out there, I have 3 degrees. Okay? Just for the retards out there, like Godfall. Just for the retards.
Thank you all so much.
They thought we were gonna endorse her opponent, Earl Sears, but Earl Sears came into the game talking about trans and gays and people in the bathroom. She was talking the goofy shit that don't nobody care about. They don't care about that as much as they care about food and prices and lowering the prices on gas and all of that kind of stuff. People care about that. Stop talking about the goofy stuff. We understand that there's trans and gays. We understand all that. But that's not important right now. Stuff is getting high and we making less money. And people getting fired.
My fellow Virginians, tonight we sent a message. We sent a message to every corner of the Commonwealth. A message to our neighbors and our fellow Americans across the country.
There you go again, talking about terrorists and craziness like that. Nobody's talking about that. We're talking about pocketbook issues. We need the gas prices, the food prices, the housing prices, the car prices. We need the gas price. We need all of those things to get under control. Donald Trump is not doing anything for the people who make between $30,000 and $150,000. That's why we're angry, and that's why we need to vote all of the people that support him out so we can get people who want to take care of the everyday average guys.
We sent a message to the whole world that in 2025, Virginia chose pragmatism over partisanship. We chose our Commonwealth over chaos. You all chose leadership that will focus relentlessly on what matters most. Lowering costs, keeping our communities safe, and strengthening our economy for every Virginian. Leadership that will focus on problem solving, not stoking division. We chose leadership that will always put Virginia first. And Virginia, I cannot wait to get to work for you.
Hey, lady, you know what? I don't care about the concession speeches. I don't care about those concession speeches. I care about, the people are winning. Are they winning or are they not winning? Okay. They winning and let's get some more stuff. Okay.
Tonight we turned a page. We turned that page by listening to our neighbors, focusing on practical results, laying out a clear agenda, and leading with decency and determination. To everyone who helped us achieve this win, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. I thank you for the trust that you have placed in me, and it is the honor of my lifetime to be elected the 75th governor of the Commonwealth.
She is the first person in the history of Virginia to get, first woman to be elected. It's a historic night.
I would like to thank my opponent for a hard-fought race.
I hope Cheryl is up next. I hope she wins. We got to pull it out from this dude. New Jersey.
The Lieutenant Governor's story, her military service, and her years of service here in Virginia deserve our respect and our gratitude, and I ask that you join me in wishing her and her family well.
All right, y'all hit the like button, please and thank you. Please and thank you. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. We love to have hot topics. 9 o'clock. Hopefully we can have the 10 o'clock subject, which is blackface, that blackface controversy.
I also know that those who were supporting my opponent are disappointed today. And to those Virginians who did not vote for me, I want you to know that my goal and my intent is to serve all Virginians. And that means that I will listen to you, I will work for you and with you. That is the approach that I've taken throughout my entire career. I have worked with anyone and everyone, regardless of political party, to deliver results for the people that I serve. And that's because I believe in this idea that there is so much more that unites us as Virginians and as Americans than divides us.
Yes. Yeah, Pisces.
And I know in my heart that we can unite for Virginia's future, and we can set an example for the rest of the nation. Our founders understood this from the very beginning. They didn't choose to call Virginia a Commonwealth by accident. They chose it to signify that our government would be based on the power of the people united for a common good. Not for a political party, not for a president, not for a monarch, but for a common good, together. And tonight, Virginia proved that that tradition is alive and well. We are still a Commonwealth in every sense of the word.
Hey. Hey.
We are built on the things we share, not the things that pull us apart. And I am proud that our campaign earned votes from Democrats, Republicans, independents, and everyone in between. That's the Virginia I know, that's the Virginia I love, and that's the Virginia I will have the honor of serving as your next governor.
Amen. Oh, our nation.
I
but
want,
we showing
I
out.
want to thank so many people for the support that they have given to our campaign. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your support. To our tireless volunteers, to those who believed in me, thank you. Thank you for devoting your time, your energy, and your conviction to this campaign. Thank you for braving the weather, the heat, and then the cold, and then the rain, and then the sun. It's Virginia, after all. Thank you. Thank you for talking to your neighbors about the importance of this race. Thank you for recognizing that when we went person to person engaging, that we could bring people not just into supporting our campaign, but into engaging in our democracy. Thank you. We won this race because of you.
You notice when the Republicans come into the chat, the first thing they talk about is gays, trans, or illegal immigrants, or free shit. It's those four things that they come into the chat and start talking about. Because the Republicans have no ideas. They have no ideas. And that's that they're bankrupt. On top of the fact that they have a shitty president, they're bankrupt.
To our campaign team, you're the best in the country.
I'm telling you, you just listen, go into a chat with Republican, and that's the first thing they're going to talk about. They're going to talk about gays, trans, immigrants, or something weird shit about Biden or something weird. Never come out with ideas. We want to. A Democrat will tell you right off the bat, we want to make sure everybody has health care. We want to make sure the country is safe. We want to make sure the poor people eat. A Democrat will come out and tell you all of these things. A Republican will come in the door talking about, let's see about the gays and the trans. Just wild.
Every single member of
And throw
our
around
team,
insult.
every single one of you, you work tirelessly for the change, the progress, the policies, the connection, and the respect that you want to see in our community.
Whose background? This lady's background? She's a Democrat. So she believes in the things that I believe in if she's a Democrat. Democrats believe in the things that I have told you that I believe in to a certain extent and other things. That's how I know I would vote for her over the black lady. And the black lady was talking about trans and gays and immigrants, people knocking on your door in the middle of the night. The city is out of control. She was talking goofy shit. That's how I know. I don't need to know X, Y, and Z. I need to know that she was a solid person because Obama came and talked for her. Okay? That's my whole point. Come in with insults. Don't have no suggestions, no solutions.
Communities.
I'm in the middle. Democrat. I'm in the middle Democrat. Closer to independent, but I'm in the middle Democrat.
Thank you for working so hard. Thank you for giving people hope. Thank you for knocking on doors in the sweltering heat. Thank you for showing kindness. Thank you for showing up in every corner of Virginia. Thank you for diving deep on policy. Thank you for capturing moments and the essence of our campaign. Thank you for reaching voters everywhere. And thank you for believing that Virginia could and would send a hopeful and joyful message tonight.
I looked up a campaign speech for her opponent, that Earl Sears black lady. I went to one of her rallies. I saw her speak, and she was only talking about gays, trans. She wasn't talking about any kind of pocketbook issue. She was saying Antifa. She was talking about terrorists. She was talking all that goofy shit Republicans talk about. And I said, nobody wants to talk about that goofy shit. People want to talk about pocketbook issues. How you gonna get my gas down, my food down, my housing down, my rent down, my car note down? People want to talk about that. She was talking about goofy shit. I saw her talking. I went to her rally. She was talking about goofy shit.
Thank you for giving everything to this campaign and then some. And thank you to my family. To my husband, Adam. My partner in everything. I love you with my whole heart. I am grateful for you. And it is very strange to declare my love for you in front of millions of people. But every adventure we have ever been on has been worth it because you have been by my side. I love you. I'm grateful for you. And I cannot wait to see what the next couple of years bring.
Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger, the first woman governor-elect of Virginia, delivering her victory speech.
And we made history tonight, ladies. We made history tonight with the governor of Virginia. See, I don't vote for candidates whether they black or white. I vote for them if they believe in what I believe in. And I think I've told everybody that. I believe in helping the poor children, helping the rich, helping the elderly, helping the veterans, helping the disabled. When a candidate tells me they're going to do things for those particular dynamics, then I'm the person that you're going to get. I don't respond to you telling me that the other party is a demon. I don't respond to you telling me that the other party likes to deal with trans. That's not my issue. I'm not a one issue voter. I look at all the things you say you're going to do, and I may not like all the things you're gonna do. You may be for AB, you may be for abortion, and I may be against that. But everything else, I like what you're doing and everything else. I'm gonna vote for you because you do more than one thing for me. I am not a one issue voter. I never would be. So I don't know how other people vote. Some people vote one issue, but I don't respond to people telling me the other side is a demon. The other side is X, Y, and Z. I look at what they believe in. Did they say they were going to help the veterans? Did they say they were going to help the poor kids? Did they say they were going to help struggling families get stuff in their pocketbook, money, X, Y, and Z? If they don't talk about that, then no, not my candidate.
In front of a crowd of cheering supporters, Hallie Jackson, she talked about the fact that her campaign sent a message to the Commonwealth of Virginia. We chose.
I'm for people who have the choice to have the abortion. Just like you have a choice not to have one, I have a choice to have one. That's the point. The point is to represent all of America, just not the ones that you like.
The Commonwealth over chaos, she says, lowering costs, keeping our community safe, decency and determination. But at the center of that message, Hallie, was one of affordability. That's what we heard from her. On the
we need to hear about we need to hear about the New Jersey. Come on.
Necessarily mention Trump's name every single.
Honey, the one thing you cannot do, Jeb, the one thing you cannot do is shame me for my choices. I'm too old for you to shame me about my choices. Maybe you're ashamed for your choices. I ain't ashamed for mine. That's wild.
Single day in every single speech, but the implications were clear. She ran on an anti-Trump message.
She said it herself, Kristen, right? Pragmatism over partisanship is what she thinks propelled her to victory. So how did she win, right? Not county by county here, but big picture themes. Look at what the most important issue to voters in Virginia was. It was, to your point here, it was the economy and our exit poll.
That's what y'all don't get. Most Black Americans are progressive. We believe in progressing. We believe in helping our fellow man. As Black people, we have been oppressed since the beginning of this country. And most Black people don't want to be oppressed again. So when we see people oppressing other people, we act and we respond. That's why most black people are Democrats, because we care about our fellow man. That's why we're Democrats. I don't understand why y'all don't get that. I don't understand why nobody gets that. We are a progressive group of people. Most of us as black folks are progressive. We believe in helping our fellow man. We believe in helping people that are downtrodden. We believe in helping us progress, the country to progress. We don't believe in helping just the rich people, because we know poor people need a hand up too.
Polls show that they broke for Abigail Spanberger 59%.
Sure, user, sure. That's exactly why. Exactly. And you got it on the head. You're a genius.
Right? So if it's the most important issue, you got a big vote break for you. Like that's clearly part of the reason why she did so well. You can see it here. The other piece of it is her opponent, right? Is Winsome Earl Sears. You look at somebody like Governor Glenn Youngkin, he is above 50% approval rating in that state. The exits show he's at like 55%. Nearly 60% of Virginians think the economy is doing well. Those are good numbers.
Yeah.
The thing is, Governor Youngkin is not running again, right? But his lieutenant governor couldn't capitalize on that popularity in really any way. In fact, her approval numbers were underwater, basically 46% in these exits here. And I think that gives you a sense of sort of the strength of Spanberger's campaign, clearly in Virginia. Still, obviously, looking to see what those margins are.
Look at that score, y'all. Look at Sherelle's score and Citarelli's score. Look at Sherelle score and Citarelli's score. 58.9%. How much is in? I don't know. I can't tell what it. Oh, how much is in? Is that 31? I don't know what it is. How much is in for that?
Trump had that overnight endorsement of Andrew Cuomo.
The mood right now, Kristen, is upbeat. It's optimistic. You don't see this entire room filled behind you, though it's starting to get that way for the simple fact that polls didn't close until 9 o'clock. To Steve's point a second ago about that vote line right around the
52% in. Okay, Mondami, what you got? 51%.
age of 45, and what was it consisted of in the early vote? The median age for the early vote.
No, she wasn't a better candidate, because she didn't read the room. If she was a better candidate, she would have read the room. That's the problem. She didn't know how to read the room. She kept running her mouth about gays and trans. Nobody cares about that stuff. People care about their pocketbooks. People care about the rent, the gas, the food. They care that stuff is going up. And all she was saying was, oh, they want you kids to go in the bathroom with trans. I heard her talking 2-point crazy. I tuned into one of her speeches. And she was talking 2-point crazy about locker room, bathroom, tampon. She was talking way out of, she just sound crazy. That's why Donald Trump didn't endorse her, because she was way too crazy. And Obama damn sure wasn't going over there, because she wasn't no Democrat, no way. So
Vote was 51, which theoretically would trend toward Cuomo, and yet that big dump still showed about an 11 or 12.
Sure, she was telling the truth, and that's how she lost. Go ahead and tell the truth. She was telling the truth for the goofy Republicans. Every time y'all come into a chat, every time you all come into a conversation, you're talking about gays, trans, immigrants, deporting people. All the cities are all overrun by gang and violence, Antifa. That's all you all can talk about. You don't talk about everyday issues. You don't stand on nothing. That's the problem. You never stood on nothing. That's all you came into the room and saying, gays, trans, immigrants, X, Y, and Z. Start talking about issues that people care about.
12% advantage for Mamdani, although I know it's tightened a little bit since then. I'm going to hit you with a couple of other data points, and it's important to.
They talking about, well, we voted for the Republicans for tax cuts. Them tax cuts ain't did jack shit for y'all. Them tax cuts doesn't do jack shit for y'all. What are you talking about? Donald Trump gave y'all tax cuts. Them tax cuts ain't did shit for y'all. If you really want to help somebody out, give somebody some goddamn relief. Regulate the goddamn electric. Regulate the damn housing. Regulate those kind of regulate the food somehow, some way. Regulate X, Y. I don't know. All I know is the Republicans don't have no ideas about helping nobody. And they're the ones that are in charge.
To note, this comes before President Trump's endorsement.
Her resume could be as better than the white ladies as possible. She still don't believe in the things that we believe in as Democrats.
Of Andrew Cuomo at the 11th hour, or like at the
they don't never trigger me convergence. I'm built for this shit.
6 or 7 o'clock hour last night, which is that when you dig into a lot of these polls, they show incredible enthusiasm for Zohran Mamdani. I'm thinking of the Quinnipiac poll right now. Voters were asked, how enthusiastic, excited are you about the candidate? More than 90% were enthusiastic about Mamdani. Under 70% were enthusiastic about Cuomo. For favorability, Mamdani was about a +5.
Nobody wants grown men in the bathrooms, Jeb Common, but it's not a talking point on a campaign trail when the groceries and the gas and the eggs and everything else is sky high. Nobody cares about that. So stop talking about the gays and the trans, and every time y'all come in the damn chat, y'all talking about gays and trans. We're talking about pocketbook issues. Pocketbook issues. The gas is high. Food is high. Eggs is high. Everything is high. Start talking about those things and stop coming into the chat talking about gays and trans. We already been over that freaking ground. That's the reason why that candidate lost, because that candidate start coming in talking about Antifa, gays and trans, people in your bathroom. Nobody cares about that stuff. They care about the gas, and they care about alligator Alcatraz, and they care about those things.
+10. Cuomo was
I'm higher than the motherfucker, Pat Yeager, but what you gonna do about it?
underwater at a -20. If I gave you all that information, Kristen, and then I told you that the New York City Board of Elections just reported 2 million votes cast so far in this, which is a figure that has not been seen in a mayoral race since the 1960s.
Obama is the first gay president, then your president is the first felon president. He's the first felon president. He's trash.
When like 80 some odd percent
of
people are actually going out to vote. So it's virtually unprecedented in modern times. And all the energy appeared to be more so on one side of the equation, in this case, Zohran Mamdani. You would think.
See that? New York hits 2 million votes. The highest turnout since 1969. A blue wave is coming. You Republicans, you might as well pack your bags, because we're done with you guys. We done with y'all saying yes to Trump and everything. We're tired of saying it.
I think that would be a good night for the campaign. We'll wait and we'll see. One thing, though, that
y'all notice, Democrats in the chat, when people come into the chat, when the Republican MAGAs come in the chat, the first thing they want to say is, oh, Michelle Obama is a man. Oh, the gay people, we got to get the trans out. They don't never stand for nothing. They always come in, don't have no ideas. The first thing out of their mouth. That don't hurt me. I understand that you think Obama is the first gay president. I understand that you think his husband or his wife is a man. I understand that. You're the goofy. We understand that you Republicans are zombies. We get all of that. Then they wonder how people got hate speech, and they're the ones doing the hate speech. We're talking about winning and pocketbook issues, Democrat. Stay focused. Pocketbook issues, gas prices, food prices, egg prices, car prices, rent. We're talking about those things. We're not talking about the goofy shit that the Republicans want to talk about, because they're zombies.
it is clear, you and Hallie have been talking about this all night. Some of these exit polls are showing that New Yorkers, specifically describing the cost of living and housing, 72% said that housing and the cost of it is a major problem for them. That speaks directly to the vein of the Mamdani campaign.
You see, he said housing prices was the number one issue in in New York. You got to start playing to the people. You can only talk about gays and trans so much.
That really singled in a real tangible form, right? Whether it's talking to cab drivers in the middle of the night, those that are manning halal carts on why they pay thousands of dollars when they should be paying hundreds just for the right to sell food, talking to working class families, really has keyed in on the idea that housing and healthcare is way too expensive. Childcare has been one of his big initiatives, universal childcare, which would cost, by the way, somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 billion. But for those worried that your taxes are going to go up and this is going to cause wealthy New Yorkers to just leave New York City as we know it, I think there's some important context to deliver. To be able to generate that kind of money, Mr. Mamdani has talked about raising taxes on millionaires 2% and also making the New York City corporate tax rate match New Jersey's. That requires, Kristen, an action from the state legislature. He can't do it unilaterally. So it's really important as we have a conversation about what it means to be a democratic socialist, wealth redistribution, even as we have conversations with folks who say they're just stunned by the level of discrepancy between the haves and the have-nots in New York City. And it's an issue that clearly has resonated with Americans across the country. Mamdani cannot come in assuming he wins on day one and just change the tax rates in New York City. It's impossible. I would also add to you, and you haven't really discussed it much tonight that I've heard so far, a big part of his appeal here in New York has been sort of the empathy he's described toward the Palestinian solidarity movement. We're talking about a city that has more than 1 million Muslims thereabout, about 1 million plus Jewish Americans too, right? These are massive populations fractured on what's going on abroad. Mamdani has come in with extremely strong language toward Israel, calling what has been enacted there by the Israeli government genocide in his words, and refusing to acknowledge Israel as a Jewish state, which has been described as anti-Zionism. But he has also been extremely emphatic that he wants to combat anti-Semitism by any means necessary. This is such a delicate issue, and it really has permeated communities all over New York City. So I would say if the umbrella of his campaign is affordability and reaching people where they are, the idea of PEP, Progressive Accept Palestine, has really struck a nerve here in New York, and it's almost the soul of what he's doing. Those two things are what I would be keeping an eye on in the days ahead. But right now, there is obviously a ton of optimism here that Mr. Mamdani is going to be the next mayor of New York City.
And Sam, quickly before
we understand that they got promises that they probably can't keep, but the whole point is to say that you want to change those things, put effort into changing those things. The Republicans would never have tried to change any of those things. They would have left it at the status quo. Okay, so we're looking for people who want to exact change. Tell us how you're going to do what you're going to do.
Before I go to Rahima, that has been a thorny issue for him. He's had to answer a number of questions, in some instances had to clarify some of his remarks as it relates to what's happening in the Middle East, right?
I'm so sorry, Kristen. I think you're asking about clarifying remarks. It's been a little bit loud here. I will say that at one point, Mr. Mamdani received a lot of criticism for condoning use of the phrase globalize the intifada, which for many Jews is a call to violence against the Jewish community. He said he's had conversations with rabbis and Jewish leaders throughout New York City and has come to the understanding that it had a very visceral tone, and he's since backed off of that. There are other positions that Mamdani has moderated when it comes to this conversation. But one thing that he will not change is the idea that Israel should not exist as a Jewish state. It gets to the cornerstone of Jewish identity. That is the fracture line, right? There's also comments that surfaced from 2023, which he said at a national convention for the DSA, when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's laced with the IDF. Not exactly clear what he meant by that. This was tape that surfaced. It's since been confirmed, but he has been asked about it, hasn't really offered much other than I'm looking forward to working with people all over New York City and concentrating on a platform of affordability. He has stuck to those talking points. But this is big picture, such a major issue. And by the way, another component of this race, the Islamophobia as well. Kristen, there have been ads run by anti-Mamdani super PACs that have shown him in front of the World Trade Center towers being struck on 9/11. As you know, we won't even show that video when we're talking about the anniversary, let alone so flippantly in the middle of a political campaign. So the sensitivities around this issue are super elevated moving forward.
Absolutely, Sam. Thanks for that reporting and for powering through. And I know it is really loud there. I really appreciate it. We'll come back to you soon. Rahima, let me.
Big Christian Entertainment, stop coming in here with the talking points. We're talking about big ticket. We're talking about issues, pocketbook issues. I told y'all, the first thing they do is come in here talking about what they hate. They never have anything about what they want to do. It's always about something that they hate.
Turn to you. Sam talks about the fact that, yes, Mamdani's views on the Middle East have loomed large over this entire campaign, as has his message on affordability, with Governor Cuomo saying he is unrealistic in what he is promising. Governor Cuomo saying he has the experience to lead. And yet, of course, he has an incredibly complicated history as well, having resigned amid a series of scandals that loomed large over his entire campaign. And the question, can President Trump's 11th hour endorsement shake up this race? What's the vibe there? What are folks saying to you?
This room has just filled up in the last 16 or 17 minutes or so, Kristen, when the polls closed here in New York. There is sort of a subdued optimism here. I was just talking to folks. They said that they are excited, but a little worried, but they are powering through with the hope and the expectation from their vantage point that they.
We think Mamdani probably gonna win, but what we're concerned about Sherelle and Sia Terry. We're worried about that New Jersey race. We want the New Jersey race to do what they're gonna do. Okay, this is what we want. Big Christian, if you can't keep your paranoia under control, it's wild. That's wild as hell. We want to find about this New Jersey race. That's the one we concerned about. Everybody else, we pretty much think they're gonna win.
Can pull out a victory here. According to the candidate just a few days ago, he said closing the gap between himself and with Mamdani. He said, at this rate, we will win. We have to keep going strong. The point that they are making in all of this is that the number of people coming out, going to the polls has gone through numbers that people had not expected. In fact, we're looking at a number that officially passed, as Sam was saying, the 2 million votes cast. And it's the first time in a mayoral election that number has passed that since 1969.
2 million people came out to vote in New York. That's a record, which means people are enthusiastic coming. They didn't get enthusiastic to come out for the Republicans. They are enthusiastic coming out for the Democrats, because most people are tired of what's happening. That's the bottom line. Most people are tired of what's happening. They want to change, and they want to change like right now. And Donald Trump is there's no pushback, and we need to change the Republicans out. I'm sorry, Republican. I'm sorry, MAGAs, but y'all had y'all shot. Y'all don't do any pushback to Donald Trump. You just let him do whatever he wants to do. And the point is, we can't allow a president just to do what he wants to do. He has to do what the American people want him to do. And this Trump is not doing what the American people want to do. The whole point is they don't want the Republicans not one pushback. The people don't do pushback. The Senate don't do pushback. The House don't do no pushback, and neither has the Supreme Court. None of them have done pushback. That's the reason why we need to change, because this president is doing things that a lot of people don't like. So we need to change things out. Okay.
And we know that some people were still standing in line to cast their votes at 9 o'clock. So there may be some additional numbers added to that. But the optimism is here. And to the point of how does Cuomo speak to the remarks that Mamdani makes about him and what Mamdani says he will provide for this city in terms of free buses, freezing the rent, and free universal child care. The words from Cuomo are, and this is his words, quoting, he calls it BS. And he has been campaigning, telling voters that that's not something that a mayor can do, that you need a state legislature in order to make any of these kinds of things come true. So Cuomo's attempt to appeal to voters was to say, understand what Cuomo's record has been. He was the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development under Clinton. He was a former Attorney General. He was a governor of New York until 4 years ago, as you point out, when he resigned in disgrace with some allegations of sexual harassment against him, of which he has denied all of that. So he's saying that he's the guy who could get into the job and in the office and start doing work at the very beginning. But some wonder about whether that's true, and they also wonder whether his record of past accomplishments makes any difference in this particular race that he's in. And will those numbers of the accelerated folks who are out and who are voting in this particular race, where are those numbers going to fall? Are they going to be the younger numbers going for Mamdani, or will it be some other voters while Cuomo is running as an independent? Will he also get Democrats voting for him? Kristen?
The person that won in Detroit is a Democrat. Yeah, it's a black lady. I can't remember her name, right? What was her name? I can't remember what her name. Mary something or another. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to watch all of those questions very closely. Rahima Ellis, thank you so much. Hallie, I know you've been watching the exit polls for us.
Yeah.
What do you have?
So let's stretch our legs and talk about it. Because there's some interesting stuff going on here when we talk about New York. And when you hear what Sam and Rahima talked about with their respective candidates, here's a news flash, some hot breaking news. New York City can be expensive, right? Everybody knows that. Voters know that. And when you look at the biggest issue in New York, it was cost of living, and it wasn't even close. Cost of living by a mile. Look at that. 55% of voters.
Y'all see the cost of living? That's what's important to the American people. When you running into the chat talking about gays and trans and all that other garbage, she said she's a women. She said she runs as a Democrat. She is a Democrat. Solidly Democrat. That's what it says. But anyway, as you all can see, it says the cost of living is the most important thing. So when people come in their chat talking about gays and trans and immigrants, nobody cares about that. We over that stuff. We talking about the food, the prices, the housing. That's what we're talking about now. We ain't worried about all that goofy stuff that Republicans want to come in the chat and talk about.
In New York City said that was the most important issue to them. And look at how they broke here. It may not surprise you, given what Steve is seeing on the big board with Zohran Mamdani. They broke for him, right, by a margin of something like 59, 60%. We're going to show that here next. And so this is an indication that this affordability message that Mamdani was laser focused on, we heard him talk about again and again, that this was a...
No, I just typed her in. You may know her better than me. I don't know. It just says that she is a Democrat. That's what they say.
Effective for the voters who felt like cost of living was the most important thing. You see it here, 63% for Mamdani. We saw it, and Sam talked about it. People think the cost of housing is too high. That was an issue that was resonant for them. So that's one of the big threads we've been following tonight. The affordability message for Democrats, the economic message for Democrats.
They got Sharia winning? Oh, my God. Thank you. That's the one I was... Now we got to figure out what happened to Gavin Newsom. Did he get his Prop 50 or whatever that is?
What's the other big thread we've been following? It is, can we extrapolate anything from this race, from the other races, to the midterms ahead of 2026? And this is where it gets kind of interesting when it looks at the voting for a change candidate. Look at this. Exit polls, when you look at candidate quality that mattered most, look at what it is. 27% say somebody who brings much needed change. They wanted to see a change candidate. We've seen this in elections before, right? Especially when the economic numbers are where they are. And look at how the vote break went there. 72% at last check went for Zohran Mamdani, of people who said that they wanted a change candidate. They broke for Mamdani overwhelmingly here. So the question is going to be for Democrats nationally, if you're going to read into anything from New York City, maybe how do you message yourself as a change candidate if you're a Democrat in one of these races? Now, I will say, here's my grain of salt. I've been saying it all night, and I think it's important to remember. Right. New York City is very specific. There's a lot of nuance that is very New York City specific that may not be extrapolatable, if you will, to other places. You heard Leader Jeffries talk about that when he was on with us just a couple of minutes ago, Kristen. So that's a dynamic at play here. But I do think those two nuggets are pretty interesting from the exits tonight.
Absolutely. And that word change, of course, has been such a big part of every election that we've covered practically.
That was one of the ones I was concerned about. Yeah, that was one of the ones because we had to squeak that out, right? New Jersey. We had to squeak that out. Because I remember something about a bridge, but I can't remember. So, okay. So hopefully we can squeak this out so Gavin Newsom can do what he got to do with the map too. Okay, people don't like that. There are plenty of it. So So you can't, that you got to come to the table with more than just hating something. You got to come to the table with wanting to help the people instead of saying, I hate X, Y, and Z. Nobody wants to see trans in the bathroom. Nobody wants to see X, Y, and Z. Not really. But the whole point is you can't continue to hit that hammer about something called Antifa, because most of us don't know no Antifa people. Most people don't know no Antifa people. Most people don't like get dragged out of their house, out of their car, put in alligator Alcatraz. Nobody likes those things. So they wanted to turn, they said, oh, hell no. We got to turn this around. We got to turn this around. So we need what we need. The left, let's be clear. The Democrats got a trash leadership. We need more leadership. We need different leadership. We need a better message. I get it. It's trash. But they damn sure don't want Republicans. They do know that. They know that one little fact. They damn sure don't want Republicans.
For the past decade. So that's a very good point. Steve Kornacki, let me go back to you because speaking of, you are getting more vote coming into New York. What can you tell us?
Yeah, New York and New Jersey. We got a lot of flying here at once, but we've been saying New Jersey. Look, the story is Chitterelli needs to have this huge same day. So we're getting close now to complete in some counties. And I want to show you Monmouth County. We just set this one up a few minutes ago. This is a big county, and this should be a core Republican county. Now, 90% of the vote is in. Jack Chitterelli is going to win Monmouth County. Yeah, he didn't win it by enough.
Okay, and we do have a NBC News. Project now that Mikey Sherrill is the projected winner of New Jersey, the governor-elect of New Jersey. Mikey Sherrill, who ran on a message of affordability of the economy, promising to lower property taxes.
Another lady in the house.
Jack Chitterelli. This is his third time running for governor. He was endorsed by President Trump, but in this case, it did not make enough of a difference. Steve Kornacki, let me go back to you very quickly before I go to the panel.
The whole point was that the Democrats ran on pocketbook issues. They ran on they still talk too fucking much. Lefties still, the Democrats still talk too fucking much. They say too many words. That's all you needed to say was Donald Trump wants y'all to starve, and he want to take care of your Medicaid. He wants you to make a choice between the food and your Medicaid. Donald Trump wants you to starve. That's the only message y'all need to say, and y'all need to be hitting that home every day. Nobody wants to hear about you going into the bathroom about trans. We already done heard about that. We already done got that message. Trump ain't gonna win jack shit in 2028. Stop it. Michelle Obama ain't run. Trump already said he's not running in 2028. It's a little toilet. Come on, keep up. That's zombie talk.
What are you seeing? How did Mikey Sherrill pull off this win?
Yeah, look, I mean, Democrats, they were excited about how they did in the early voting, and that certainly held up. And, again, the same day is just, I was put this up a minute ago, but at 9 points, Republicans want this to be a 20-point county, maybe even more than a 20-point county. So Sherrill's certainly doing well relative for how you'd expect Democrats to do here. Bergen County, we're still waiting a bit on. But she is overperforming everywhere that we've got results. Gloucester County, this is another one. We set this one up a little while ago. Sherrill continues to lead in Gloucester County. Now, more than 80% of the vote is in Gloucester County. This was where we had, we said in 2021.
I'm just trying to figure out how the breathing channel feels like we keep losing. We didn't keep losing. We haven't lost a race yet since April. Democrats ain't lost a race yet. They don't like your party. They don't like how the Republicans govern. I don't know what you talking about, breathing channel. You need to go and look at some stats. That's wild.
There was a red wave in New Jersey, and it started in Gloucester County. Chitterelli won it by double digits. He may not even get to 500. He may not even win it tonight. So again, Sherrill outperforming certainly how Phil Murphy had done in 2021 there. So we're just seeing this throughout New Jersey. It's adding up not just to a Cheryl win, it's adding up to what looks like.
But what I told y'all earlier, don't worry about who won. Worry about the percentage of independent people that went for the Democrat. Worry about the percentage of Hispanics that went for the Democrat or the Republican. See what the percentage was. 46% went for Kamala and 49% went to Donald Trump. See how much of a swing that the Hispanics do. See how much of a swing the independents do. That will tell you the state what the fuck is going on. It'll tell you how bad the Republicans are gonna do. Okay,
to be a very solid Cheryl win here on top of what we saw out of Virginia for Abigail Spanberger there.
Yeah. And we don't care about the winnings. We care about the winning, but we don't. We care about that percentage that swung to the Democrats. That's the percentage that we care about. That what those two groups swung over there.
I just wanted to go over to New York City because again, this is where things are really. If I'm a little discombobulated, it's because I'm trying to juggle what's happening here right now. Now, look how quick this has happened. Remember, we got the early vote in New York City, and that took us to just under 40%. This is same-day vote that's come in since then. It's taken it up to 60% of the vote. Now, remember, Cuomo trailed by about 12 points in that early vote. You can see that margin has come down. It's down to.
Yeah, we understand that New York would not have voted for a Republican. We understand that, but we want to see what the percentages are that independents and other minorities voted for the Democrat or Republican. We need to know those percentages. That will tell us the tale.
8 points here. So we said Cuomo needs to have a big same when they count up the vote that was cast today, which is what they're doing right now, which is what most of this remaining vote is. He's got to do big. Now, the number's been jumping around, but we're keeping a close eye on it. Right before I came on, the most recent number we had was Cuomo was winning the same day vote, 46 to 45%. Now, if he's going to actually catch Mamdani, it's got to be a bigger spread than that. It's probably got to be about an 8-10-point spread for Cuomo. So he's not currently trending at the level he needs to. He'd have to pick that up. But it is enough here for him to pull us within 8 points. That's 60%. And again, Sliwa, we talked about those voters kind of abandoning him for Cuomo. Clearly, that is something that happened here in New York City.
Okay, well, it's getting more dynamic in New York City. Steve, stand by. We're going to check back in with you in just a moment. I do want to head out to Stephanie Gosk. She is at Mikey Sherrill's headquarters in.
You see, this Marcella came in the chat talking about Democrats are evil. That's wild. She don't know no Democrats, and she come in this chat and she come in talking about Democrats are evil. That's wild.
In New Brunswick, where, Steph, the celebrations have begun. We can hear them behind you, waiting now for the candidate, the governor-elect, to come out and deliver her victory speech.
Yeah, well, that should be happening.
You don't know no Democrats. You're a zombie. Stop it. For you to say Democrats are devils, are evil, that tells me you don't know no Democrats and you're a zombie. That's what that tells me.
Happening probably pretty soon. You know, it's interesting, Kristen, because some people are saying that this race was going to be really tight, that it could be going into the wee hours of the morning, and it is not even 9:30 yet, and we have a winner. That sounds like a demonstrative win. People in this room are realizing that right now. The feeling here is electric, and at this point, when you look at those numbers, you have to start wondering whether that referendum on Donald Trump that Mikey Sherrill was trying to have in this election, attaching her competitor to Donald Trump, whether that has worked. And if it has worked, whether there might be some way to extrapolate that.
If you guys are running across any kind of, exit polling gives you percentages about, who voted for whom. You know, how many, the percentage of Hispanics voted for X, Y, and Z. If you guys run across it, put it in the chat, okay? Thank you. Because I really want to know. I really care who won, but I really want to know those percentages of, the independents and the Hispanic crowd.
Out
and the Islamic crowd, all those people. Okay.
So that this result tonight is the bellwether that some people thought it might be as you look forward to the midterm elections. I don't want to overstate it, and I know it's too soon to make that kind of analysis completely, but people in this room are starting to talk about that, and you can really feel the energy and the excitement for what's happened here in New Jersey today.
All right, Stephanie Gosk, thank you so much for that. We'll come back to you when she takes the podium and delivers her acceptance speech. We really appreciate it. But joining me now is former Republican governor of New Jersey, Christine Todd Whitman, who has endorsed Mikey Sherrill. Governor, thank you for joining me. Your reaction to the big news we just called this race.
I am delighted. It's been a great night for women across the board, in Virginia as well, and several other races. But this is terrific for New Jersey. It really is. It means we're going to have a governor who's going to care about New Jersey, not care about what the president wants. And that's what people want. They want someone who's going to focus on their issues, not try to please someone in Washington. And I'm just delighted. And it finally means that we'll stop introducing me as the first and only female governor of New Jersey.
You have a little bit of company now, another history-making moment, that is for sure. Governor Whitman, let me ask you one of the big questions of the night. New Jersey's obviously a blue state. It's also a state where President Trump made some significant gains in the last elections, in part by driving out Latino voters. And one of the big questions hovering over this evening was, could Mikey Sherrill, could other Democrats start to win back that coalition? Democrats potentially could draw too many lessons from these races. But what, if anything, do you think the lessons are here in this race?
Well, I mean, it's clear that Mikey had the message that people wanted to hear, because she's been outperforming in almost every county. Everywhere you look, she's been outperforming what was expected of her and what's happened in the.
Do you know what, Nikki Fox? We don't even know who Alex Soros is. I don't even know why. I don't even know why y'all would even bring up somebody called. See, remember, Democrats, they don't have any issues that they run on. They come in the chat talking about goofy stuff. Nobody cares about an Alex Soros. We don't even know who that is. Nobody cares about those things. And yet and still they come in here talking about Alex Soros. Like we're supposed to be impressed by an Alex Soros who we don't even know. They don't have any issues, so they come in talking 2-point crazy. Nobody cares about Alex Soros. We don't even know who that is. Most people ain't even seen the man, yet y'all made him the boogeyman. Just like y'all made trans and gays and immigrants the boogeyman. Y'all need to grow up. Y'all need to get a better playbook. So obviously y'all need to change y'all program.
The past for Democrats or previous gubernatorial candidates. And conversely, Jack has been underperforming, and this is his third time around. So if they're going to,
we don't even know who the Democrats are. We don't never even know Alex Soros.
And I think it shows that Mikey, people who are in the center can reach out to everybody. And that's what people want. I mean, that's why we have the Forward Party that Andrew Yang and I have among the co-founders, to offer people a choice of representatives who are going to really represent them, elected officials. And that's what Mikey Sherrill has said she was going to do, is go after those New Jersey issues and only concentrate on New Jersey. Not worry about.
Concentrate on New Jersey. Stop concentrating on the LGBTQ. Stop concentrating on Alex Soros. Stop concentrating on Antifa. The Republicans don't have no ideas. I'm sorry, y'all. Don't nobody want y'all brand of politics.
What Washington is saying or wanting them to do. I mean, she cares about what they're saying, and that's one of the things. Jack said he could think of nothing that Trump had done that was wrong for New Jersey, and yet he's canceled the tunnel. He's done innumerable things that have cost New Jersey money and that have hurt the state.
We ain't called Republicans nothing. We ain't called them a damn thing up in here. The Republicans have come in this chat talking 2-point crazy to us. We ain't called them not now one name except maybe zombie.
And so people understand that.
Governor Whitman, you take me to my next question. Do you think this race is equal parts?
They talking about you, breathing channel.
In support of Mikey Sherrill and also a rejection of President Trump and this second Trump administration and some of his policies?
Well, it's definitely a combination. I mean, all elections at the end of the day are local, but in any election this year, the president is such an overwhelming figure, has made so many decisions that are hurting so many people that you can't ignore it. It's clearly a reflection, not just on the president, though, but on this dysfunctional Congress. I mean, the House hasn't been back in session for 6 weeks, and we're paying them.
Governor Whitman, I hate to do this. I have to interrupt you. I have to thank you for joining us, but we do have another call that we want to make, which is that NBC News can now project that Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani is the projected winner, the mayor-elect of New York City, the first Muslim to hold that distinction. He came from near obscurity, an assemblyman, soared to the top of the list in the primary. Governor Cuomo was beaten there and then ran as an independent, and now he has declared victory once again. Steve, take us to the big board. How did he pull this off? How did he pull off what is going to be an historic win?
Yeah, well, it's probably going to be closer, too, than his primary win. That was a 12-point margin he had in the primary. I mean, clearly, you said the polls were all over the place, but the polls that showed the closest margin here ended up being the accurate ones here, in part because that Curtis Sliwa vote, that is, 10 points, maybe 15 points lower than he was at in some of the polls, and it just looked...
Okay, y'all, we got all of these stats that came in. So, we good enough, but I got to end this stream right now because I got to start the other stream that is talking about the blackface. So y'all jump over to the stream. It'll be at 10 o'clock. I got to take a bath. I got to go to the bathroom, X, Y, and Z. I will be back in 10 minutes. So we got all the wins that we wanted. I will be back in 10 minutes. Please show up. That's for the blackface. So please, and I appreciate y'all. Y'all hit the like button, subscribe button. This is the kind of content we love to do. We love to do this kind of political content. It is what it is. I will be back in 10 minutes, but I got to restart the stream and start the channel of the blackface. It starts at 10 o'clock. I will see you there. Hit the like button. Subscribe button. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I will be back in 10 minutes. I'll be back. I'll be back. I'll be back. I'll be back.